Мы выходим в эфир из студии Московской школы управления Сколково. И сегодня, завтра и послезавтра, то есть пятница, суббота и воскресенье, мы будем вести отсюда онлайн-трансляцию всяких преувеличений уникального события. Это международный, первый в истории кубок по шахматам среди ведущих бизнес-школ мира. И если говорить об официальном названии турнира, то это FIDE Binance Business School Super Cup. Суперкубок для студентов, выпускников и сотрудников бизнес-школ. Кубок пройдет в онлайн-формате. Много бизнес-школ, много представителей бизнес-школ сейчас будут участвовать в отборочных этапах. Они это будут делать онлайн. У команд разные часовые пояса. И мы будем в UTC-формате время показывать. Мы будем трансляцию вести на популярной шахматной платформе Lichess. И будем следить не только за ходом турнира, но и непосредственно общаться с командами, когда это будет возможно, знакомиться с известными гостями. Я лично, как представитель бизнес-школы, очень хочу пообщаться с ребятами из других бизнес-школ. Меня всегда это очень волнует.
Суперкубки. У нас участвуют 32 команды из 12 стран. И география у нас обширная. Представители Северной Америки — это США, Канада и Мексика. Представители Африки — это страна Замбия. Азия представлена Индией и Бангладеш, а также двумя островными государствами — Филиппинами и Фиджи. И, конечно,
And of course, Europe. And we have teams from the UK, Scotland, Switzerland, and of course, Russia. Well, there is plenty domestic teams. In particular, the Skolkovo Business School put up 2 teams for the tournament. We sincerely wish all the teams a great luck. And we've already got a timetable for the cup. All in all, we will have 4 groups. Each group will have 8 teams in it. The main squad will consist of 4 players plus 2 substitutes. Before each round, the captains of their teams will be selecting who's going to be playing. And only 15 minutes remain before the first round. And the team captains have already sent the applications. According to the competition rules, teams are given 10 minutes plus 2 seconds extra per move. All in all, each round will last for 30 minutes. For the first 2 days, meaning on the 9th and the 10th of July, the contestants will compete in groups, and on the 11th of July, we'll have a playoff, when best of the best within their groups will be competing for the title of the winner. Oxana is being pretty humble. I know Oxana is one of the team captains. Is that correct? Yes, exactly right. That's why it was very easy for you to tell how it's all structured, and it's very clear why you are here with me. Alexey, what's your role? You're the Alumni Director. Which hat are you wearing? That's a very good question. Well, first and foremost, my friends play today. The alumni of Skolkovo Business School that I knew even before coming to this business school. Secondly, I believe it is of utmost importance that
участвовать в
business
таком
school
турнире,
alumni
потому что
and graduates take part in a tournament like that. Because chess is a top-notch intellectual game. And what's important for us is have people participate in such processes, show what they can offer. They needed to show that business is not just about the intellect, it's also about the strategy and moving forward. Actually, it's our chess club that participated in January in the corporate chess competition. And we got so incited, we got so motivated to create our own tournament that we couldn't but introduce our own cup for the business schools. Is it hard to organize an event like that? Moreover, I do understand that FIDE organizes events in different, not just educational establishments, but it does so in various organizations and companies. By answering that question, tell me, please, what's it in for you? What's the most interesting, what's the most valuable for these 3 days? What do you expect from them?
последними событиями в мире,
Considering the
когда
recent
у нас
global
очень много
events,
людей ушло в
a lot
онлайн,
of people
шахматам,
had
конечно, было
to,
легче, да,
well, live
перейти в
online.
эту часть.
It
И
was pretty easy to do so for chess.
Международная
It was
шахматная
very easy
федерация
to
FIDE начала
translate
проводить
chess
множество
online. And
турниров
FIDE, the
именно в
International Chess
онлайне.
Federation, started organizing
И
lots of
всем
online
очень понравился
chess
этот формат,
tournaments,
потому
and
что
everybody really
достаточно
liked that
легко
format
объединить
because it turns out
людей
it
из
is
разных
really
уголков
easy
мира.
to get together people
И
from different parts of the
мы очень
world
рады, что
on
вот
one single
начали
platform, and we
появляться
are very
такие
happy
турниры
that
и
such
специальные для
tournaments
специальных
started
категорий,
appearing
да, то есть для,
for special categories of
для
players.
корпораций, для университетов,
Meaning we have a
для
tournament for corporations,
бизнес-школ.
we have a
И,
tournament for
конечно,
universities,
организовывать
and there are
подобные
plenty of
турниры
tournaments for business schools.
очень сложно, потому
Organizing
что
tournaments
это
is a very complex business
нужно много-много-много очень служб
because
одновременно
you need
объединить.
to make
Поэтому
sure that
я
lots of
как вот,
services
один
work in
из
unison.
организаторов Кубка
And being one of the
даже
organizers
уже
of the cup,
решила не участвовать
I
или
decided
участвовать
to
в
abstain
непосредственно в
from
соревновании,
participation
но как
or
можно меньше, просто
participate
потому
in
что
the
я
competition, but
не
as less
успеваю
as
находиться
possible because
и
there's not
там,
enough time.
и там.
I
Оксана,
have no
тебе вообще
time to
большое
be present
уважение,
in
мой
both
личный
places. Oksana, my
респект,
deepest
потому что
respect goes to
вести
you.
мероприятие, одновременно
Because
организовать его,
hosting an
еще и
event,
быть капитаном
organizing an
команды,
event, and
это
still being a captain of a
дорого
team,
стоит.
well,
Я очень
that's
рада, что
quite a lot
столько
on your
много
mind, isn't
людей,
it?
да, поддержало
Yes.
нашу идею,
It is,
потому
but
что
I'm
это
happy that
очень
so many
важно
people
всегда,
supported our
когда
idea
ты
because
что-то
I think it's
придумываешь и
extremely
загораешься
important
этой
when you
идеей.
come up with something, when you got carried
Очень
away with an
важно
idea.
передать вот это
It's really
желание
important to
другим, да,
pass
людям.
on,
И очень
to make other
много поддержала, прежде
contagious
всего
of this
поддержала
idea. And
Международная
many people
шахматная
supported
федерация
it, and
FIDE.
for sure
И как
FIDE
раз
has rendered their
к нам
support.
сейчас
So, to
присоединяется
bridge to that,
президент Международной
we
шахматной
have
федерации
the
Arkady
president of the
Vladimirovich
International Chess
Dvorkovich.
Federation, FIDE, Arkady Dvorkovich.
Здравствуйте, Аркадий Владимирович.
Hello.
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
Good afternoon.
Я вас не слышу пока
I don't
что.
hear you for
Сейчас
some
нас
reason.
ребята, наверное, настроят,
Can you
или,
hear
может
me?
быть, у вас на вашей стороне можно.
Maybe they should set it up. Maybe something wrong on your side. No, I have my sound on. Does it work?
Выберите, пожалуйста, русский канал.
Can you please
Там
select
есть
the
в
Russian language?
настройках русский
There in
канал,
the settings, you might choose the Russian language.
аудио.
Maybe it works this way.
И мы сразу вас услышим.
And we'll be able to hear you right
Да,
away.
так как у нас на самом деле трансляция идет
Since our
сразу же на
broadcasting
нескольких
is
языков,
organized
да,
in
то
several
вот
languages
для
right
гостей
away.
наших, к сожалению, небольшие
слышно?
бывают сложности.
Can you hear
Мы
me
вас
now?
слышим.
Yes, we can hear you
Здравствуйте,
very
Аркадий
well.
Владимирович.
Perfect.
Спасибо большое, что
Arkady,
нашли
hello.
время
Thanks a lot for finding
присоединиться.
time and joining us.
У меня к вам первый вопрос. Я сегодня буду
I've
этот
got
вопрос
my
многим
first
задавать.
question too, and
Что
I'll be
для вас
asking that
шахматы?
question to many people. What is chess for you?
Прекрасный вопрос. Для меня
That's
это
an
любовь
amazing
детства,
question. For me,
и
it's
продолжает
the love
оставаться
of my
таковой.
love.
Игра,
I've
которая
been playing it since
захватывает,
childhood and
которая
continues to be an insightful
вызывает
and
во
a
мне
very
азарт,
exciting game.
который
This
соединяет в
game
себе
makes me
необходимость думать,
really very
творить,
competitive. And
считать, интуичить,
it's just something where you have to
при этом
calculate,
встречать множество людей, очень
compute, be more
интересных людей, которые
intuitive,
тоже
be
любят
creative,
шахматы, и
make bold
общаться
moves, and
как
it's
за
also an
доской, так
opportunity to
и
meet
вне
other
доски.
people. And you meet
Ребята,
them
первое, что
playing
я
the
услышал,
board
это
and
любовь.
outside the board. Well, the first thing I heard is
Да.
it is love. Love, for sure.
Конечно, теперь для меня
Love
последние
from first sight. But
2 года, нет, уже
for the last
почти 3
2
года,
years, or
шахматы
maybe 3
являются и
years,
профессией,
chess
не в смысле
is
игры, а в
becoming a
смысле того,
profession
что я
for me.
отвечаю за
Not because
организацию
I
шахматной
earn money
вместе
by
со своей
playing,
командой.
just because
Да, ну и как президент Международной
I'm
шахматной
responsible
федерации,
for
действительно, это уже
organizing
становится еще
chess
профессиональной
competitions.
деятельностью.
Yes, and being the
Да,
president of
да.
FIDE, it becomes your
Алексей.
professional capacity. Is that correct?
Аркадий Владимирович, я
Alexey.
хотел задать
Arkady,
вопрос. Вот
I
сегодня у
wanted to
нас
ask you a question.
непрофессиональный турнир
Today
среди
we're not
выпускников бизнес-школы.
running a professional
Да,
tournament.
вот
It's a tournament
как,
amongst the
что для вас
graduates of
шахматы
business
и
schools.
бизнес? Да,
What is
как они
chess and business
сочетаются?
for you? Do you
Ведь
think there's a
шахматы, в
match?
принципе, метафора
Because
войны.
chess,
Да?
you know, it's a
Как
metaphor
мы
of
видим
war.
бизнес, чему можем научиться, как
But what
выпускники
can we
бизнес-школ,
learn?
играя в
Being
шахматы с
the
друг другом?
graduates of business schools, what can we learn playing chess with
Изначально
each other?
шахматы действительно метафора войны, хотя
Originally,
шахматы
chess
гораздо
was
больше, чем
definitely a
это.
metaphor of war, but chess
Тем
is
не
more
менее,
than that.
бизнес живет в
It's definitely much
конкурентных
more than that.
условиях, как правило,
However, business does
монополии
exist
все-таки
in a very
являются
competitive
исключением
environment.
из правил,
Monopolies
а
are
конкурентные
an
условия
exception from the
предполагают
rules. Competitive
необходимость выбора правильной
environment
стратегии,
means that you need to select the
тактики,
right strategy and
превращения
tactics
своих
of turning
фундаментальных
your
преимуществ
fundamental strengths
в победу,
and advantages into a
необходимость
solid win.
мыслить широко,
It requires you to
понимая
think in a more broader way,
одновременно
seeing a
все, что
helicopter view
происходит
of
на
the
разных
picture.
краях доски,
And you
и
need to
как все
understand
это
what's
можно
happening on the
гармонично
board at
соединить,
various angles of it,
умение уважать, в том
at
числе
various
соперника,
sides.
кто бы он
And
ни
it's
был,
also,
умение правильно воспринимать как победы и
It also
так и
teaches you
поражения.
to treat your
В
victories
общем, все
and
те
the
навыки, которые на самом
losses
деле
in the
важны
same equal way.
как начинающему,
These
так уже и
skills are
продвинутому
important for
бизнесмену.
a a starting business person and
Аркадий
for
Владимирович, пожелайте, пожалуйста,
mature
нашим
one.
участникам
Arkady, can you make a wish? Can you
что-нибудь.
say something kind to our
Участникам любого
participants?
соревнования
Well, to any
прежде всего
participants
хочется
of any
пожелать удачи,
competition, one needs
поскольку это
to wish
соревнование,
luck,
и
because
все-таки
this is a
каждый
competition, this is a
рассчитывает
tournament,
на победу,
and of
но,
course everybody
конечно,
hopes to win in here.
важно в
But of
таких
course,
неофициальных или полуофициальных
in
соревнованиях
semi-official
получить
competitions like
удовольствие
that,
от игры,
an equal
встретить
important
новых
thing is to
друзей,
get pleasure
новых
from
коллег,
playing, to get joy and
зажечься
happiness,
новыми
meet new colleagues and friends, meet old
идеями и,
ones,
конечно,
get
возвращаться уже
excited by new
на
ideas,
официальные
and of course,
соревнования. Мы
come
рассчитываем,
and
что
join the
после этого
official
первого опыта
tournaments. We hope
турнира
that after
между
this first
бизнес-школами
experience
мы
organizing the
сможем
tournament between the business
извлечь
schools, we'll
уроки
be able
и
to learn some
приблизиться к
valuable
проведению уже
lessons,
чемпионата
and
мира
hopefully we
среди
will come
бизнес-школ.
close to organizing
Так
the
что
World Championship
всем нам удачи в этом
amongst
непростом
business
деле и большое
schools. I wish
спасибо, Оксана,
everybody
за
success,
инициативу,
and thank you
за
very much, Oxana, for
то,
proposing
что
this
удалось
initiative.
собрать
Thank
так
you
много
so very
команд,
much for collecting so
32,
many
насколько я
teams.
понимаю,
32 teams, am I correct?
и, наверное, около 150
And around
участников.
150 participants have
И
been
это уже
united
такой
in
необходимый
this
минимум,
one
на
movement.
котором можно расти.
Well, at least it's a
Спасибо
solid
вам
base
большое,
from
Аркадий
which you can jump
Владимирович.
even higher. Thank you
Спасибо
very much,
большое.
Arkady. Thank
Спасибо
you.
огромное
Thank
за
you,
ваше
everyone.
время и
Thank you
за
for your
пожелания
time, and thank you for
участникам
joining, and
нашим
thank you for these
ребятам.
kind words to our
Счастливо.
participants,
До
guys and
свидания.
girls. Thank you so much. Thank
Ну
you.
что ж, у нас остается, наверное,
All right.
буквально минут
Минут 5, наверное.
5, да? То
minutes
есть,
5 до
remain
начала
before the
трансляции.
да,
start
и
of
все
the
участники
broadcast and the
сейчас, в
competition.
этот
All the
момент,
participants now,
находятся
at this
за
very
своими
moment in
компьютерами,
time,
потому
are
что
behind their computer
кубок
screens.
проходит онлайн, они должны
The cup
выйти
is
на
organized
шахматную
online.
платформу,
Everybody needs to log
также
on
должны
to a chess
подключиться к
platform.
Zoom,
They also need to
игровому,
connect to Zoom,
так мы называем
to
игровой
their
Zoom, потому что так как
Play Zoom. We call it a
соревнования
Play Zoom.
проходят под эгидой FIDE, то
Just
у нас
because
существует
the competitions
комиссия,
are
которая
organized
называется
under the
Fair
auspices
Play,
of FIDE, we
и
also have our Fair Play Commission.
судьи должны проверять, да,
And
все ли
the
хорошо у
referees
участников,
should
не
check on the
пользуются ли
participants.
какими-нибудь
Is everything okay?
подсказками.
Aren't they using any prompts or
И
hints or something like that?
сейчас, конечно, большинство команд,
Of course, the
большинство
majority of teams
участников
right now,
играет
the majority
каждый
of
в отдельности,
participants
да, у себя дома,
are playing
потому что
separately, each being in
соревнования
their own
проходят онлайн.
homes,
Но
behind their
на
own
самом деле
screens, because the
команды могли
competition
собраться
runs online.
все вместе,
But
все,
actually,
все
we also
участники, да,
offered an
команды могли
opportunity for the
собраться
participants
все
within a
вместе
team to come
в
together
одном пространстве.
in
И как
just
раз
one
вот
space.
команды наши, большинство участников,
And the majority of our teams
собрались в брейкауте,
Breakout.
прямо рядом,
I mean,
да,
our
который находится с
SKOLKOVO
нашей
teams are
студии.
close to us,
Мы
are
еще
sitting
обязательно
next to us
покажем, как это
in the
происходит,
breakout
когда
rooms,
участники
which
сидят
are
прямо
nearby the
непосредственно за
studio. We'll show
компьютером,
you
какие у них эмоции до партии,
the
какие у
emotions
них
of such
эмоции
participants.
после.
We'll show you what's happening in those breakout rooms before they start a game and after they conclude a game.
Каждый тур будем переключать
And
вас
every
на
round
шахматного нашего
We
комментатора.
will connect our
Сегодня
chess commentator.
англоязычный, да, у нас комментатор.
We will have
Это
an English-speaking
международный
commentator,
женский мастер
an international
Фиона
women's
Steil-Antoni.
master,
И
Fiona Steil-Antoni,
русскоязычный
and a
комментатор,
Russian-speaking
который у нас
commentator,
будет рассказывать вам на
commentator who
русском
will be
языке. Это у нас...
telling you what's happening on boards across various
Да,
rounds
секундочку.
is...
У нас будет два комментатора.
Да, у нас
We will
будет
have two
просто два
commentators,
комментатора.
yes. We will
Сегодня
have
для
two
вас будет
commentators.
работать с нами Iossif
And today
Dorfman, а
we will have
завтра
Iossif,
и послезавтра
Joseph
Анастасия
Dorfman.
Карлович.
And tomorrow and the day after
Подождите,
tomorrow,
получается,
Anastasia
что мы
Karlovich.
работаем 3 дня.
So
У
it
нас
means that we
есть
will be
ребята,
running
которые
for
все 3
3
дня
days.
будут
We
приезжать
Мы
в
have
Москву.
people who will
надеемся,
be
что
coming
они все
here.
3 дня, потому что
Yes,
сегодня и
they will
завтра
be
у нас
coming here for 3
групповой
days. We
турнир.
hope at least, because
То
today
есть
and tomorrow we have
все
a
команды,
group
которые разбиты по группам, они
tournament.
играют
Means
между
that
собой,
teams
и
divided
лучшие
into groups
команды
will be
выйдут
playing.
как раз на
Понятно.
третий
Если
день.
ребята выйдут, они будут
within
приезжать.
themselves.
Слушайте, я обещал вам
Yeah, and if
провокацию, я в
they,
прямом эфире ее
can get to the
проведу.
playoff,
Я хочу,
well,
чтобы на
I
второй,
promise
третий
you a
день кто-нибудь
provocation,
из наших
and I want
с
to do it right
телефоном,
now.
подключившись по
I
Zoom,
want on the
сходил
third
к
or the
ребятам,
second
естественно,
day,
не в момент турнира, чтобы не
for some
отвлекать
of
их
us,
в перерыве. Я
to
хочу
take his
реального
or her
репортера
phone,
с
connect
живой
on
ситуацией,
Zoom,
что там
and I want
происходит
a real
в перерывах.
reporter
Как
from the
ребята
hot
приходят
spots,
в
so to
себя,
speak, what
какие у
happens
них
live.
эмоции, какие у них
I really
лица.
want to see the
Пожалуйста,
emotions,
давайте
the
это организуем.
faces.
Я бы очень
Let's
хотел.
organize
Да,
that
обязательно.
somehow.
И
I
кроме
really
того,
want
мы
that.
тоже еще
Definitely,
будем смотреть
definitely.
некоторые включения
Moreover,
прям
we will
вот
have some live
со специальной
broadcasts,
камеры.
telebridges.
ну,
We'll have a special
что
camera
для
traveling
тебя
around.
шахматы? Я сегодня
Alexey, what's
А,
chess for you?
всем
Because I still want to
вопрос,
ask you that
пока еще
question.
мне
Is that
не
the question to
задавали.
everyone? You haven't asked that to me
Знаешь,
yet.
Вань, для меня
It's coming, it's coming.
шахматы
You know,
мне
Ivan,
очень понравилось. понравилось, вот сейчас Аркадий
I really
Владимирович
liked when Arkady joined in.
говорил вроде бы об игре,
And I
но
really
он
liked
говорил
when
об
he
очень
spoke something
человеческих
about the
историях,
game, but
да?
he actually
Он говорил про
said
любовь,
things that
он говорил
relate
про тех
to
людей,
very
которых можно
simple and
встретить за
basic human
шахматной
emotions. He
доской,
told about love,
противников,
he told
которых
about
надо
the fact that
научиться
you can meet
уважать,
someone across
про
the board.
себя, ну
He
там, или
also
про
talked
нас,
about
про тех, кто
me,
иногда иногда играет в шахматы или не иногда, что ты должен уметь и выигрывать, и проигрывать. То есть для меня шахматы, несмотря на то, что это действительно метафора войны, все-таки это история про человека. Да? Это история про человеческие отношения. Фигуры костяные или деревянные, но мы про вполне теплых ламповых людей.
Отвечая на вопрос, говорить про общечеловеческие ценности, мне кажется, это прерогатива в целом мудрого человека. И поэтому так можно на любой вопрос начать, в принципе, отвечать. Ты говоришь, что это про людей. Про их эмоции, образ мышления. Что значит про людей? Потому что, давай, я немножко позанудничаю. Шахматы — это фигуры на доске, перед которыми стоит задача победить. Я вот так себе, это мое исключительное. За ним скрываются люди. Что это означает? Как это понимать, что это про людей? Вот твою фразу. Я хочу, чтобы чуть-чуть пару предложений.
Я когда услышал от Владимировича про то, что это детская любовь,
да.
Я вспомнил, как я тоже в детстве в каком-то шахматном клубе, там, рядом с моим домом, первый раз там играл с ребятами на каком-то детском турнире, как в каком-то отдыхе я играл, мы выигрывали, проигрывали, очень жутко переживали за это. То есть, вот если говорить про людей, то есть кажется, что это игра про войну и вот какие-то формальные правила там и взаимодействия, да, но на самом деле здесь нет ничего формального. Потому что с каждой стороны доски всегда находится, ну, кроме случаев, когда там находится deep blue, да, всегда находится человек, да, в глаза которого ты смотришь, и в которых отражаешься ты сам. Потому что ты в процессе игры тоже трансформируешься и учишься очень многому, гораздо больше, чем просто игра.
Спасибо. Спасибо, Алексей. Теперь я понимаю, о чем ты говоришь.
Как раз у нас сейчас есть кадры того, как наши команды, наши участники именно нашей школы готовятся к своему первому туру.
Я видел выпускника Executive MBA программы для топов, довольно зрелых менеджеров. И я видел вместе с ним выпускника программы, которую я участие принял в запуске, MOVE, это программа наша.
Вот, это как раз Александр Брюшинин.
Вот они, ребята.
Да, и Сергей Райцев.
И я даже, слушай, такие серьезные лица, я даже боюсь, как-то мы с ними не будем общаться, мы просто
Как раз,
подглядываем.
к сожалению, да, здесь тот самый случай, когда участники не могут посмотреть в глаза своим соперникам, да, и ощутить вот это вот. Да, не можем.
Ребята готовятся,
у
них есть
So
вода,
they're getting ready.
они,
They have some water on the
кстати,
table.
находятся на расстоянии 1,5 метра друг от друга.
Actually, they're sitting 1.5 meters away from
Мне
each other.
кажется,
Social
что они как
distancing is being
раз соблюдают
observed.
дистанцию.
Да, я об
Yes,
этом
it is
говорю.
being observed. Yes, yes. It's an
Это
important
у нас
nowadays.
одна команда, потому что у нас две
Is that one team?
Просто у нас, да,
Because
не
we have
все
two teams from
ребята
Skolkovo
смогли
School.
приехать сегодня,
Not everybody
да,
managed
Они
to
находятся
come
в одной
over
команде.
to
Да.
us,
Это
and
та,
they're in
которую
one
ты
team.
капитан?
Is that correct? Yes. Is that the one
Я
that
бы
you're
даже
captaining?
дезинформировала немного. Настолько переживаю за ребят, что
Misinformed you.
справность
Seem so
Александр
worried
Брюшинин,
about you,
как раз
about what's
Саша
happening.
у нас
To the right, we have
играет в
Alexander
первой
Brushin,
команде,
and
да, и
Alexander
Сергей
plays for
Райцев
Team
играет
1,
во
and
второй
Sergey Raytsov plays for Team 2
Хорошо.
of
Кто
Skolkovo
из
Business
ребят
School.
из твоей
Good.
команды?
Who is from your team?
Александр Брюшинин.
Alexander
Можешь
Brushin
ли
is from my
ты
team.
рассказать не про Александра конкретно, а в целом,
Can you
по
tell not
какому
about
принципу
Alexander
у вас же есть
specifically, but
основные
in general?
игроки, запасные игроки,
You have
вы
main
делаете
players, you have
ротацию. Как ты,
substitutes, do you rotate?
именно с позиции
Now, being
капитана,
a
расскажи
captain,
нам, как
what do you do?
вы
How do you
управляете
manage
этим?
your
По какой
team?
причине выходит сейчас этот игрок
Why do you think that he is the
и
player
играет,
that
а
should
потом
come
другой?
forward now
Как вы
and
их,
play?
они устают,
And then
вы их
another
поэтому
one
меняете? Я просто
swaps.
по вчерашнему футбольному матчу
Do they
сейчас
get
аналогию
tired?
провел
Do you
10 минут,
rotate? Because
устал поменяли.
I
Я
remember
очень примитивно
yesterday's
сейчас
football
специально
match.
сказал,
I know I'm
чтобы
doing this very
говори об этом
primitively,
немножко.
just for
У
you
нас
to
в
speak
команде
more about
4
that.
основных
In my
игрока
team, we have
плюс
4 main
2
players.
в запасе. В каждой
Plus
команде должна быть
2 are the
обязательно
substitutes. In each team,
должно быть обязательно не менее одного игрока
definitely
мужчины или
have to
не
be at
менее
least
одного
one
игрока женщины.
male player or at least
И
one female player.
в определенных
And at least one female
в определенном порядке мы уже должны сразу же заявить всех
There
участников.
is a certain order,
И
and we
перед каждым
must
туром просто капитан команды выходит в специальную
apply
программу, да, и выставляет, что
team
там на первой
players
доске будет играть, например, Жай
for
Латье,
a
на второй
tournament, and we
Александр
know that.
Брюшинин,
Board one,
да,
here's,
на третьей, например,
Жай
Антон
Латье
Козлов,
playing.
да, и на четвертой там
Next,
Екатерина
Alexander
Кирсанова.
Brushin.
Это вот
Next,
состав
Mr.
для первого тура. Потом, возможно,
that that's a composition for the first match. Of course, someone of the players might get tired and might say, I don't want to play in the second round, I'm not feeling comfortable. Or there might be some key and important rounds, and we need to propose the strongest composition of the squad for a similar, in terms of strength, team sitting next or opposite us. Yeah, the higher the stakes, the stronger is your squad. Is that correct? Yes. And of course, there are several team principles that have to be observed.
Особенно вторая команда у нас, так называем команда организаторов, да, то есть все ребята, которые участвовали в организации, именно в составе второй команды. И также, как на корпоративном чемпионате мира, мы чувствуем достаточно себя так иногда свободно и хотим дать как раз поиграть всем абсолютно в турнире, да, и основному составу, и запасным. Мне кажется, это как раз очень хорошо, что вот в таких турнирах можно немножко расслабиться, не чувствовать напряжения и дать абсолютно всем возможность поучаствовать.
And here's your human story, Alexey. We started from organizing preliminaries. After that, we have a semi-final and the finals. Without the winners competing for it, actually. The winners will get a cup, they will get the title of champions, and we'll also have special prizes, but there will be more about them to come.
Битва за победу. Ну вот мы возвращаемся к человеческим историям. Оксана говорит, мы хотим, чтобы ребята поиграли, мы хотим, чтобы у всех была возможность, ну не у всех по возможности, у ребят состава была возможность проявить себя. Шахматы это про людей. Что для тебя есть
шахматы? Это для меня на самом деле такая прям целая жизнь моя, потому что я начала играть, начали меня учить в примерно 2 года. Да, была такая история, что папа на день рождения моей сестры, когда моей сестре было 5 лет, он подарил ей первую шахматную доску и начал учить сестру. Я шучу, что папа не любит, когда кто-то без дела ходит. И решил, что мне просто так ходить вокруг. Раз, посадил, тоже начал, естественно, сначала с каких-то элементарных вещей, там циферки, как называются фигурки и так далее. И начал заниматься и с сестрой, и со мной шахматами, конечно же, я
he started doing more chess with me and my sister. And until I turned 14 or 15, I was playing chess professionally. My sister is the 12th chess champion, and I am really proud of my sister's successes. She's an active athlete, and in just 2 days, on the 11th of July, there will be a World Cup opening, the real one, the true one, amongst men and women. 2 cups will start in Sochi, and both men and women will be competing, and they will try to figure out who is the strongest chess player. Right now, I started telling you about love, and I ended telling you about competition. See, I met it on a different note whatsoever. I can actually talk a lot about chess, and I can jump from one topic to the other. But actually, thanks to our school, thanks to Skolkovo, it brought me back to chess, because I left chess for a very long time, and I got completely distracted.
И благодаря школе и шахматному клубу я снова вернулась и как-то начала помогать ребятам и организовывать турниры, и потом уже вернулась к семейной истории, то есть в нашей семье есть школа шахмат для детей, поэтому опять шахматы вернулись в мою жизнь, да, поэтому для меня шахматы это огромная часть моей жизни, я их очень
благодаря клубу,
thanks to the
шахматному клубу в бизнес-школе
chess
Сколково.
club of Skolkovo Business School.
И шахматному клубу, да, Сколково, ну и вообще программе MBA, потому что когда я пришла, я начала пересматривать, да, все то, что происходило со мной за все эти годы. Плюс еще на тот момент я продюсировала фильм, который был на основе, да, шахматной истории, да, поэтому как-то вот все вместе это соединилось, и снова я вот вернулась к шахматам. Но, кстати, Ваня, я знаю, что у тебя тоже есть в семье
I know that in
шахматисты.
your family you also have a chess player.
Да?
I was waiting for you to ask me
Да,
that
что
question. I
шахматы
was
для тебя?
hoping you would ask me
Я стоял и
that.
думал,
What's
когда
chess for you? So I
вы
was
все
standing here and
отвечали,
thinking,
да, Аркадий Владимирович отвечал.
when
Я
all
думал,
of you
что для
were
меня
answering
шахматы. И
what's
я вот честно
chess,
скажу,
and
я вообще в целом,
when
как
Arkady
человек
was
про любовь,
answering what's
но
chess,
шахматы
I
для
thought
меня
to
это
myself, what's
гордость.
chess for me? I
Гордость,
think
в первую
chess
очередь, даже
is
не из-за истории
a
семьи,
pride.
хотя это тоже.
It's not a pride
Гордость за страну, честно
I
скажу.
take
Ну, то есть
for
я
the
горжусь
history
там
of my
определенными.
family. It's
И
the
вот когда
pride I
я
take
думаю, чем я
for
горжусь в
the history of my
плане
country.
страны,
So when I'm
во-первых, я
thinking what I'm
горжусь
proud of,
красотой русских женщин,
well, of course, I'm proud
буду
of the
честен.
beauty of the Russian women.
И я
I'll be
сразу
frank
же
with
думаю
you.
про шахматы. Я
And
горжусь
thinking about chess right away. So when
нашими
I'm
успехами
imagining
на
my country, I'm
шахматы
taking great
и,
pride in
наверное,
what we
фигурное
have
катание. Вот
achieved,
как-то у меня
and
вот именно
probably
эти...
figure skating is another one. So these are
Фигуры
the
и там, и там.
things.
Да,
And you have
получается так,
Красивые, да, фигуры?
figures in both.
История семьи тоже
types of
заставляет
sports,
этим гордиться,
yes.
потому что мой прабабушка и прадедушка — это международный гроссмейстер,
And
чемпион СССР по
my
шахматам.
grandmother and my
Бабушка
great-father are
Семенова
international
Тяньшанская
chess masters.
по
My grandmother, Семенова Тяньшанская,
по шахматам.
Чемпионка
is
СССР, да,
a
была в
gross,
определенные
Если я
годы.
правильно помню,
Да.
36-й,
Grandmaster.
37-й, 39-й. А
1937,
ее муж
1939, yes, a USSR champion
по
and a
шахматной
world
литературе,
champion.
шахматной
And
композиции.
her
Да.
husband is
Владимир
a chess
Корольков.
composer.
Вот.
Yeah,
И
Vladimir
я недавно,
Kramnik.
меня это очень вдохновило, потому что я начал читать про это, я понимаю, что
And
я
it was an
не настолько хорош,
inspiring piece of
но это
news
как-то
for
очень
me.
вдохновляет,
When I
знаете.
started
То
reading
есть
about
как бы
chess, when I
я
got
сразу
invited
начинаю
here,
предъявлять свои
I knew
требования. И
exactly
мне
that
кажется,
is
что
something
в
that I really
целом
want to do.
тот факт,
And
что
I believe
Россия, Советский Союз до этого, в целом, исторически, на
Russia,
шахматном поприще,
the fact that Russia and the
мы
USSR
очень хороши. Вот для меня это
was
было
so
одним из
good
таких
in
триггеров,
chess
что надо приходить
was
и
a
принимать участие в
trigger
этом мероприятии в любой роли. Я очень
for me to
хочу,
come and be
чтобы
a part of
такое
that
на
event. I
площадке
really
бизнес-школы
want
Сколково
I really
транслировалось,
want
проводилось. Я
that kind
хочу
of
к этому
story
быть
to be
причастным в любом
replicated
случае,
and
в
to
любой
be
роли.
promoted
Шахматы
in Skolkovo. I want
объединяют.
to be a part of that. So chess unites. Is that correct?
О,
It does.
Фиона,
Hello, Fiona.
мы видим Фиону.
We see Fiona
Фиона
right
уже
now.
готова
Fiona
комментировать
is ready to start
наш первый
commenting.
тур. Мы сейчас
She
передадим
is ready to
Фионе
start
слово
commenting the
и
first round,
будем
and now
тоже
we will pass
вместе
the
с
floor
вами
to her,
следить за тем,
and
что
we'll be
происходит
following
у нас в первом
closely
туре.
what's happening
Да,
during the
у
first
нас
round. Is
начинается
that correct?
первый
Yes.
тур
We
отборочного
announced the
этапа.
first round
Сейчас
of
ты
the
можешь сказать, сколько
preliminary
команд будет
stage.
одновременно
Can you
играть?
say how many teams will be
Все
playing
32.
Все 32.
simultaneously?
Все
32
32 команды
teams, right
будут
away.
играть.
32 teams are going to be
Фиона,
playing. Fiona
ее русскоязычный визави,
and her
будут
Russian-speaking
комментировать
vis-a-vis will be
ход
doing
матча. Мы будем
commentating.
следить.
The course of the match
И
will be
пожелаем
explained by
всем
them,
ребятам
and we'll be
удачи.
following it really closely.
Да,
I
и
wish
Фиона будет
all
комментировать на
the
английском,
best
Iossif
to
Dorfman на
the
русском.
guys. Yes,
Через
Fiona will be
полчаса
commenting in
мы
English,
выйдем
and
в
Iossif
эфир.
will be
Я надеюсь, у
commenting
нас
in
будут
Russian
еще
in half an
гости.
hour. We're
Как
back online.
минимум,
Hopefully, we will
я
get
очень
more
хочу
guests to
пообщаться
come.
с нашими
And I
ребятами.
really want
У
to
нас
talk to
сегодня
our
много
people.
сюрпризов, так что
We have
оставайтесь
lots
с
of
нами.
surprises up in our
Все,
sleeves, so
передаем слово
please stay with
Фионе
us. Yes,
и
Fiona, over
Иосифу.
to you.
Мы скоро вернемся.
Iossif, also
Оставайтесь
to
с
you.
нами.
We'll soon be back. Stay with us.
Пойдемте, ребят.
Just waiting. Or if they cannot hear well, I any moment now. Today we will have 4 rounds in this double round robin. Single round robin event, and then on Sunday will be the knockout. So as Oxana, Alexey and Ivan mentioned already, there are 32 teams from 12 countries taking part. The top player is Joël Lothier, and actually just as I say this, the games have popped up to make my job, so they are playing under aliases, so I'll have to, let me see if I can figure out where Joël Lothier is playing. Maybe I'll just open one game more or less at random. I think it will take a little bit, but here we go. So the first game I've opened up is between Gagi Cave and Sanjoku, and we saw a French opening, Queen E2, a rather rare move. I guess the ratings that we are seeing. I am muted. That is bad. I shouldn't be muted. Let me see. Let me just double check. Audio is good now. Okay, great. Thank you so much for the feedback in the chat. So yeah, I was just saying that we have a French queen e2 is quite a rare move. d5, I think the standard response, and now knight c3, developing a piece while hitting the queen. So the queen goes back to d8. It almost looks a little bit like a Scandinavian, but it did come from an Italian game. White decides to fianchetto the bishop to g2, and black is also looking to get castled. So he develops the last piece from the king side. And I guess white will be looking to develop this knight. The question is, do we want to put this knight to f3? Do we want to play d3 first? Could it be an option to castle queenside? I don't think.
Их план состоит в том, чтобы сыграть где-то c5, конь c6 и привести коня на d4. Белые играют без всякой стратегии. Это чистая игра на развитие. Мешать черным вывести слона c8.
Move. I guess on this move, so both sides are now castled. Black's queen side is still completely undeveloped, so black will have to figure out what to do about those pieces. By the way, somebody in the chat, I see some familiar names in the chat. If you would like to go into the Lead Chess broadcast, it's a little bit difficult for me to keep an eye. So we currently have 16 games going on. Or if someone from the production can tell me which match this is, I'm currently looking at, that would be great. So I assume these are the FIDE ratings. Sorry, the Lead Chess ratings, I think is what they are. So we see both players quite evenly matched in this matchup. And right now plays d3, opening up this final bishop. Oh, they are cropped out. They shouldn't be cropped out. Let me fix that. Thank you so much, Screws. Okay, I'll have to recrop that. I did test it beforehand, so I'm not sure what happened there. So black, let me do it very quickly on the fly, see if we can fix this so that you can see who is playing. Would be helpful for the viewers, of course, to know who is playing. So let me just put this over here. And now we see the names of both players. Thank you so much for that. So now we see both players with the black pieces, Sanjoiku, and black is still playing the pieces on the king side, still disregarding development on the king side. It's actually quite funny to see that all those pieces are still stuck on their starting squares, while white has just completed the development. All the white pieces are out, are taking part of the game. So the onus now is on black to figure out how do you develop these pieces. The problem, as is often the case for the French players out there, they will know this very often. This bishop on c8, the light squared bishop, is a problem because when black plays e6 on the first move, the problem is that you block in your bishop. So very often this bishop is the problem piece for black. Sometimes black tries to play b6 and put the bishop either to b7 or to a6. It can also go to d7, of course, but still we see that this will probably be black's biggest problem piece in this game. On the other hand, for white, the problem is this knight. Very often, well, there is a saying in English, the knight on the rim is dim. That is the case actually right now for this knight on h3. I'm a little bit confused if we go back that white didn't develop the knight to the usual developing square f3, especially after this bishop took away the jump to f4. So right now, I'm wondering about two pieces, this knight on h3 and the bishop on c8. Where are they going to go? What is going to be happening with them? Oh, and thank you so much, Screws, in the chat, who is informing me that the player with the white piece is Goryachev, is Avet Tunsi, who has a FIDE rating of 1963. So yeah, now white has retreated the bishop, and I guess white's idea is to bring the knight to f4 on the next move. I think white would be quite happy to exchange this knight for this knight and get rid of this one problem piece in the position. But we will see what does white decide to do. White could also possibly think about some f4 pushes or c4 pushes. This one was not on my radar, but it does make sense to kick that knight back. And now, oh, g4. I like to see that. I love aggressive chess. I'm not sure how sensible it is. g4 looks like it's weakening. One of the problems with a move like g4 is that it is suddenly weakening a lot of the dark squares. So we can see, especially f4 and h4 have now become quite weak. But on the other hand, white is stating some aggressive intentions. This is already, it's only move 14, but it's sort of an all-in move. White is saying, okay, you still have some undeveloped pieces here on the queen side. So let me meanwhile attack you on the king side, and now we see black decides to exchange the knight on e4, and now white has a few options. White can capture with the pawn, white can capture with the queen, or white can capture with the bishop. So we're going to see which one is it going to be. It's going to be the pawn. Very interesting. So white wants to keep 4 pawns on the king side. And this bishop might be looking now maybe to come to c3, although I think the bishop is also looking happy to be.
Мне кажется, перспективный ход e6, e5, подготавливая конь f8. Понимаете, сейчас поле d4 ослаблено, и туда может стремиться черный конь. Вот хороший план стратегический, это e6, e5, и потом искать дорожку, маршрут для коня.
But, and for completeness sake, thank you so much to the chat. The opponent is Sanjay Borman with a FIDE rating of 1800.
В общем, здесь трудно, конечно, предсказывать игру соперников. О, первый успех, e6, e5, отличный ход. Отличный ход.
Interestingly enough, Sanjay is the higher rated player on lead chess. These are the lead chess.
Конь f8, и потом конь пойдет на e6. Да, конь f8 угроза позиционная, неприятная.
On b2, but it's also potentially looking down at the king. And white says, I do not care about your threats, I do not care about this pawn. Oops, that was me, I did not mean to do that. Black is certainly not going to play queen b5. That is not going to happen. Instead, black is going to have to consider, and let me just very quickly refresh the page. So black captured on g5. And now an interesting choice once again for white. Do we want to capture this pawn with the bishop, or do we want to take with the knight? I'm starting to to come to h5. So white decides to go for bishop takes, which by the way also defends the pawn on d2, which is now defended by the queen. On the other hand, I say I like it for white, but it is a very double-edged choice by white to play this opening, this aggressive g4.
Видите, вот это типичная игра без стратегии.
Черные все-таки... Lost its main protector, the g-pawn.
После этого хода теряется весь смысл всех предыдущих ходов.
C5 is not
Ну что, белым надо играть F4, где-то теперь открывать короля.
You also seem to hear the Russian commentary. Okay, let me just let someone know. Thank you very much. So yeah, I was saying one of the nice ideas behind this move, the last black move C5, is that the queen can potentially join the defense. Of course, it doesn't want to go to H6. Potentially join the defense. The king out of danger, but also potentially preparing to bring the rook to G. For the moves are starting to come in faster, but here, oh, this is a big moment. F4 was a big mistake by white, as it allowed the move bishop g4, skewering the queen and the rook. And the problem is, if white plays bishop f3, the only move to intercept, then the knight on h3 would be hanging. So white in big trouble now. White is going to have to move the queen, but then the rook on d1 will fall. And we see now white starting to take some time. He played the game so aggressively. By the way, we have some results. Some results have come in already. Today is going to be a challenge because there are 64 games going on at the same time. So maybe in future rounds we will jump around a little bit more. Maybe let me know in the chat if you're watching us. I'm watching the chat on YouTube. Would you prefer to focus on just one game, or would you like to try and see a few more games? The problem, of course, 10 plus 2 is a very short time control, so there is not too much time to jump around. Meanwhile, queen f2 was played. I guess black will take the rook on d1, which is the reason he came to g4. And white, I think, will be looking for some desperado attack. White will be looking to bring the queen to h4 and see if he can do anything on the king side. The problem for white is that actually black is quite solid now. It will take some time to get an attack going. Probably the best chance is if the time drops down for black. If we can get into some kind of time scramble, that is probably the best. White's best hope. I'm a little bit surprised, I have to say, that black has not captured the rook yet. I don't know what he's thinking about, but there he goes. He, after giving it some thought, the rook is captured. And now white has a couple of options. White could, of course, recapture, but white could also consider taking on e5. My guess is that white is going to take on e5. Nope. All my guesses have been wrong so far. 64 games, 64 squares on a chessboard. Coincidence? I think not. I think not. So rook takes d1, and objectively white is completely lost because white has lost an exchange. But knight g4, I'm not so sure about, because queen g3, I was just gonna say queen g3, and suddenly white is going to pile up some pressure along the g file, and knight h6, going back to h6. Remember, at first it looks like this knight is hanging, but then we see that queen on b6, which is doing a great job defending along the 6th rank. So what does white do? White now just says, okay, now I don't want to lose this pawn anymore, so let me just push it and let me just stabilize this pawn structure on the king side. And then next up, I think white will be looking to bring a rook to g1, maybe bring the bishop to f3, and the target will be this pawn on g7. White, as I said, is still down in exchange, but suddenly I think black has not chosen the most precise way to defend. And now things are not so clear, especially players. Time is really dropping down now. Around 3 minutes on the clock for each player. Black decided to capture on f4, and bishop takes was the answer. The thing is, it's still, of course, an exchange is an exchange, as they say. But white, I think, is going to be able to create some counterplay, or white has maybe some compensation here. Also, the bishop pair. The position is quite open, so the bishop pair is always very powerful in those types of positions. White now has a big decision on his hands. Is he going to trade queens and weaken this pawn structure, or is he going to try and keep queens on the board? Of course, the queen, the most powerful attacking piece, and I'm not surprised that white decided to keep the queen. Also note the queen went to a square where it is still looking down at this crucial g7 point. And I think white's idea is still rook g1. I expect rook g1 to be played quite quickly here. It makes no sense in general. When you are the one who is down material, you don't want to exchange material. You want to keep the material on the board and keep things as complicated as possible, especially in a position like this where there are some attacking chances for white. So I'm surprised that white has not played yet, but this time I'm almost certain that rook g1, and there it is, rook g1 has just been played. The thing is, there is no threat yet. It looks like we might be able to have some discoveries, and black once again saying, please, 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 let's exchange queens. But white says no, bishop e5, no queen exchange for you, and also increasing the pressure one more time on this g7 pawn. And I'm actually almost starting to like this for white. I think it's a difficult defensive task now for difficult defensive task for black, and especially in blitz games, especially in blitz games. Especially in blitz games, it's even more difficult to defend precisely when you're the one being attacked, because the last time you have, and now we see this pawn, we were talking about it for the whole game, the g7 pawn has dropped, and that is not just a pawn, that is a huge, huge pawn, and suddenly that black king on h7 is looking quite lonely. White will be looking to activate this one last bishop. Maybe the bishop, now that the knight has vacated the h3 square after jumping to f4, where, by the way, it's also attacking the queen. I think white will be looking to bring this last piece into the game. And now, of course, we cannot do that because the knight is attacked on f4. But this position, it almost feels like a tactics position. It almost feels like there should be something here. There should be something here for white, who decides to take on h6. And now bishop h3, and that queen, is that queen trapped? It's not trapped, but there is a huge, huge double threat. We're threatening the queen, and if the queen goes, I think that will be mate. I think that will be mate, but where is the mate? King h5 is the only move, queen h7, queen h6 is the only move. And I think queen f7 will be the mate. And white, what a comeback here. What a comeback by white. Is this also, I think this is also good enough. With the king having to run, I think incredible comeback by Goryachev, the player with the white pieces, Goryachev, and that king is now being hunted down. And now that white is the one who is up material, I think he will be but no, the rooks come off. Maybe white, well, and that's the end of the game. We missed the last few moves because they were played quickly, but white took on f7. and after rook takes, black resigned because that is a check and an attack on the rook. So a very exciting game that we chose to follow for this first round. I'm going to see what else is still going on. So we have International Master Rish 1756, and by the way, in just 1 minute from now we will be going back to the studio because we will be joined by former world champion Vladimir Kramnik. But let's stick around here just for 1 more minute to see if the first title player whose game we are seeing this I am playing here with the white pieces, is he going to win his game? It's not so clear. This is not so clear at all. Material is even. The king is a lot more centralized than the black. Past c-pawn is quite dangerous, so white of course looking to capture that pawn, and maybe white will succeed after king d4, but we shall see. King d4 hitting the knight, so the knight has to go. The knight will probably capture the pawn on a4. This game is going to go down to the wire. I only just noticed the big time difference between the two players, but we will come back here later and figure out what happened in this game. For now, I'm going to pass it over back to the studio where we will be joined by the legend Vladimir Kramnik. Actually, we are back. So the interview will be in 3 minutes, which is actually great news because we might catch the end of this game. Which is now a pure rook ending. But although white is probably the favorite here, although Novaski also has a FIDE lead chess rating of 2215. I think black, I thought that black was going to defend the pawn from behind. Now I guess it will be white who will be looking to get behind the pawn, and that is the move indeed. Rook a5 has just been played. And white, I think what white is going to try and do, white is going to try and create some pressure or create a passed pawn, but you know what they say about rook endings? All rook endings are drawn. Is this going to be another of those? It's an endgame where I would be scared, I would be worried playing on both sides of this ending. I think one thing is probably, no, I think now with this pawn dropping, I think this is going to be a draw. There were a lot of moves coming in. I think maybe the players are playing too fast somehow. No, a draw was agreed, sorry. A draw was agreed after rook takes e3, so another high level match. There's still a few more games going on, so let me continue going down the ranks. This one was, I guess, a no-show. Here, let me see if I can find Joël Lautier's game, who is the strongest.
I know that he is a 14th world champion. Vladimir, hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you please switch on the Russian channel in your Zoom settings so that we can hear that? It might be that you have an English channel right now. It might be, yes. We can't hear you for now. I don't know how to switch it over. Usually you find it where the mute button. That's where you see the interpretation channel. That's where you have a mic. Yeah, we dropped out. Can you hear me now? Not for now, no. Vladimir Kramnik is the 14th world chess champion, and he is one of the legends. He is one of the contemporary legends, and we're so happy having him online. We do have a little secret right now.
Мы вам расскажем, не будем раскрывать сразу же всё.
And we're gonna tell it right away.
Как Владимир это связан с нашим кубком.
We'll tell you how Vladimir is connected and how is he related to our cup. Because Vladimir knows one of the participants of our cup very well. I think it's in the right below corner. There is a translation. There's a lot of things in there, and I can't really find that.
Сложная система, да, подключения гостей. Гость должен пройти квест, решить шахматную задачу.
Yeah, there's a quest that every guest needs to solve. It's like a chess problem, you see. It would have been easier if Zoom, for example, in Lichess, if you want to register there, you are being checked how you play chess, and you're being given a very simple problem to solve. Mate in one move, and most of the Lichess users, they deal with it pretty easily. I think Zoom proposes you a problem where you have to mate in 5 moves, and you need to solve that before you can get connected. Here, I find it. Yes, he solved that. It wasn't in the left corner, it was somewhere in the middle, so I was searching in the wrong place. Well, now we know what to say to all other guests who can come to our studio. Thank you so very much for finding time to join us. And what I would like to do is, I would like to ask with my traditional question to you. Vladimir, what's chess for you? Well, now it's just a hobby for me, but it used to be a big part of my life. You're answering facts, but emotionally. What is the first thing you come to think, you come to remember, or you come to realize when chess is being said? I think it's a self-actualization, self-awareness. I like to think. You know, I'm a very strange person. I really like the process of thinking, and I'm getting a lot of pleasure from it. I think it's a great opportunity to make something that you love, to do something that you love. It's an opportunity to think, and that was another interesting word. That was a word that you said from the beginning. It's a self-actualization. Yes, self-actualization. That's an interesting concept, because we're collecting a cloud of associations, you know. You know, people do different things. Some raise money, others earn them, some treat people, and I'm moving wooden pieces across the board. Yeah, to everyone his own. You see, we have a chess cup amongst business school alumni, and for one of the teams, a graduate of our school plays. You might have heard about him. You might have heard. Can you guess? Any guesses? A graduate of your school, yeah, business and chess. 2 things combined. Do you think there is a person who managed to connect these 2 things? He left chess career and he became Joël Latier. You see the guy? Yes, exactly. You're absolutely right. Joël Latier agreed to participate, and he agreed to play and to become a part of our team, and we are very happy to have him on our team. And Vanya has a question for you about Joel. In the year 2000, as far as I remember, you won Garry Kasparov in London. It was so long ago. I don't remember. No, it's a historical fact. I read about it on the net. There's nothing more true than the internet. Exactly. Was Joel at your side, or? Yes, he was. He was before the match and after the match. And we are friends and we work together. Yeah. And I have some very good impressions on that match. And him being seconds, And I remember how hardworking he was, and I'm not surprised hearing that he is a successful businessman today. Going back to that time, or maybe from your experience, what's the main input of a second? Why do you need a person at your side? Why do you need a player and a second next to the player? Well, because there's lots of technical things that need to be done when preparing for the match, and in between the matches, you don't have enough time for that, and you also need to make sure that you're left with enough efforts, enough force. That's why your second works a lot during the match. He checks out some new ideas. He checks the plays before you and the games before you, and he motivates. You really have to establish good person-to-person contact. That's why I've always been selecting my seconds, not because of their personal qualities, but because I need to feel empathic and sympathetic to that person, and I need to be on the same boat. We say on the same wave, and he is such a person for me. We started our broadcast today saying that chess are people, and I think it's an important condition for people to feel each other and to understand each other. Is that correct? That's the way I hear it, at least. Yes. It's hard for me to imagine a situation when you can work hard and not being in the same mental space deliver. Even worse, if your relations are tense, I don't think it will be efficient. It has to be a partnership. Has it? Yes, it does. You see, we're doing the same job. We're a small team. A couple of people are delivering one result. They're going towards one single objective, and half of your success rests on a great understanding between the members of the team, going into one direction, pushing the load towards one particular destination. I think it's important, and I managed to assemble such a team, and Joel was amongst my team members and many other people who all worked to achieve the same result. Vladimir, you said that chess is a hobby for you. And when I was calling to Joel before the cup, I remember Joel telling me, well, now we need to remember how chess moves, how chess pieces move. This expression, let's recall how chess pieces move. It's quite often being used by chess players who've long dropped out and who play, well, time and again just for their own sake and pleasure. When you say that chess is a hobby for you, what's your attitude right now? When you're being called to participate in tournaments, do you feel like that? I need to recall how chess pieces are moving. Exactly, because it's really important to be in the know. Of course, you don't forget the main things or the main postulates, the main strategy. Your understanding is there, but if you're outside the flow, if you're not trained, like in any type of sports, in any type of activity, you need some time to spring back and to reach your, to show your very best and to start showing what you're made of, what you're worth, because you have to be in the flow, in the game. You have to wind up your brain for that type of activity. So I do understand Joel very well. I have similar problems. I only rarely play in some very short blitz tournaments, and of course you can't wind up your brain, make your mind work at the same level as if when you're playing on a permanent basis. But I think Joel is a good enough player. I think he can do it very well. At least he was one of the leading world chess players. Actually, what I can say, he has a record. I think he set a record, and I think just two chess players, us, me and him, of the same generation, who had positive outcomes of meetings with Garry Kasparov. I had a positive score, and Joel had a positive score after battling with Garry. Well, I used to be a world champion. Joel played 10 games with him, and he won more than he lost. Well, since both left chess, the score will remain. He knew how to play, he knew how to move his pieces, he knew it very well. I don't think he's gonna play bad. I think the team, you're lucky to have him on your team. I'm pretty sure he's gonna do great. Vladimir, which chess events do you have time to follow right now? Not all, unfortunately. Not all of the chess events. For example, World Championships and Continental Cups, yes. Sometimes, when I have time in the evening, I am doing that. But I'm no longer doing any professional chess. Considering that it's more of a hobby for me, I'm following them in my free time. And the free time, as always, is very limited. When it happens, it happens. What do you do now? What do you dedicate your life to at the moment? In the last year and a half, like everyone, I'm dedicating my life to sitting at home and being remote. But of course, I'm doing a lot of things online. I'm having trainings and training sessions. I have my own projects. I do some things in artificial intelligence domain. I do something with DeepMind. Yeah, I think I left chess for good, but sometimes I'm delivering masterclasses when I'm being asked. My workload is still pretty high, but like everyone in this world, it's now all happening online. Looking at your experience, we really wanted to hear your opinion about the following thing. Is there an impact that chess makes to society at large? Do you think chess make an impact? What does chess bring to the lives of people? I don't know. It depends on the society, it depends on the people, it depends on a lot of things in the context. I think it's an intellectual pastime, it's an intellectual activity, and it develops the skills that are getting lost in the modern world. Being sensible, patience, knowing where to move. You have to think deep. It's not a reactive game, unless it's a blitz, of course, but you need to have this deep mind, as strange as it may sound. And our current rhythm, well, the pace of the world is becoming so fast, and we're losing the capability of sitting back and thinking hard. I think chess is the best pastime for strange people like me, who really like the process of thinking, who love not because we need it, or not because there's some benefit in it, it's just we love thinking, and I think chess is great for thinking. Okay, what's your take on the following? Today we have lots of tournaments with a short time control. That classical chess, slow chess is currently being treated skeptically. Not only by viewers, but also you can hear that sometimes for well-known chess players, that chess must be watchable. I'm sorry for the word. That following a chess game for 7 hours is no longer that interesting for the majority of the viewers. Well, you know, it depends on the time. For lots of centuries, for some reason, it was interesting, and now it dropped out of fashion? And you're saying that? I don't think it's a matter of a game. I don't think it's we're to blame the game. I think we're to blame those who are watching it. But still, until now, we have lots of people who find pleasure in watching the classical chess, and I think everything should exist in unison. If people don't have time, if they're not really interested in playing long games, there are other formats available for you. We have lots of formats, and there's lots of audience for each of the format. So I suggest that I think that may every flower blossom. In 3 to 4 days, I'll be playing classical chess very soon. Yeah, unexpectedly, wouldn't you say so? Of course, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding. We will be coming to Dortmund, and we'll be playing with Shahmadana Manand, with the 15th world champion. And we'll be playing the new chess, which we've developed together with DeepMind. Without castling. It's a separate story, and since you asked, I really wanted to tell you about that. that soon I'll be behind a chessboard with Viswanathan Anand. Well, we'll wish you success in this unusual match without castling. Are you getting trained? Tomorrow. Mañana. I'll starting my training tomorrow. That's the whole idea, because the chess is new. It's a little bit amended. The rules are a little bit amended. Actually, the whole opening theory disappears. You need to start thinking right from the outset, and all the patterns change, so no openings for you there. It's a very creative game, I think, more creative, and it will be our first try on a very high level. We'll see how it goes. For now, I don't really know myself where it will lead us to. Of course, it's harder to play this kind of chess instead of the usual chess, because you don't have the usual stuff to cling on to, the openings, but I think it will be more interesting for the viewers, although it will be harder for us. And of course, it will increase the efficiency, and of course, the matches and the games will become more intense. We're developing it. We will publish a scientific article for 100 pages with DeepMind about that. We ran our research about the new variations, and a year ago it was published. So you can find it if you are interested. You can search for it, definitely. We'll take a note, we'll ask for a reference, we'll ask for a link. You see, he said that for a viewer, it's more interesting to observe the chess like that. Of course, we need to think about the viewer. We're not playing for ourselves, we're playing for the audience, for the people out there. Of course we play for ourselves, but also for the audience. Absolutely, and I support you. I have a friend of mine who plays Where, When, What. It's a quiz game on the Russian TV, and the first thing he said, we're doing it for the viewer. Everything for the viewer. That's an important aspect. Of course, definitely, we live in this one world. We're dependent on the viewer. The audience depends on us. They like watching our games. We as professional chess players, we need to understand that we're not playing for ourselves, we're playing for our viewers. That's why in sensible limits, if we don't turn it into, I'm sorry, a circus, it goes well with the public. And I think we need to try play in such a way that everybody gets maximum pleasure, maximum entertainment. That's the whole idea. And we would like to wish you success in the upcoming match. Thank you. So kind of you. Do you have any last words for the guys that participate now in games? 3 main qualities, 3 main things that they shouldn't forget. What do they need to keep in mind in order to win in the tournaments? Well, first, you shouldn't forget that it's a game. Still, it's a game. It's not a self-expression or a means of getting glory or a means of earning money. It's a game, first and foremost. The second thing that I would like to tell is, please keep cool head, especially in critical, stressful situations when there is a shortage of time. I know it's hard, but this is something that you need to learn to do, and I'll tell you a secret. If you can keep your cool, you'll be on the top. The top-level chess players, you know how they're different from the others. They know how to find cool, they know how to not yield under stress, not yield under pressure. And the third thing, don't forget to get fun from the game, not just from the outcome. It doesn't matter whether you lose or win. Feel fun, because if you don't have fun, if you don't find fun in the process, it's really hard to get to the top. I know it, for sure. And I know former world champions, such as Khvorov and Karpov, who got extreme fun playing chess. They really liked it. Whatever the outcome, however high the stakes may be, I see it. I see a sparkle in their eyes. And when they see a chessboard, they become completely different people. They turn into different people. If you get fun from that, it makes the game more fun. And of course, it gives you more chances for success, however strange as it may sound. You really have to get fun from playing. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Vladimir. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Have a good luck. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. Dear viewers, play play with cool head and play for fun. And we are back to our championship. We're back to Fiona. Over to her. Let's find out what had happened in the first match and in the first round and what kind of results we get. Because the first match is the most nervous one, and a lot rests on technicalities because not everybody gets connected in the necessary time frame. Some can confuse their nicknames, some can confuse their windows, and all those technical things get brushed up at the first go, and of course they distract all the players. But if you do it with cool head and with fun, it will work out. Exactly. Fiona, over to you.
Thank you so much. So we are back. The first round has ended indeed. I think the most interesting result in the first match was a 2-2 draw between, I believe, the Skolkovo, the Moscow School of Management, the A team, headed by Joël Lautier, who you were just talking about, with Vladimir Kramnik. They were actually held to a draw by the University of Toronto, which I think those two teams are really the two strongest teams in that group. So it will be, I'll be curious to see what happens there. I suspect both teams will proceed to the knockout stages, but we will find out about that, of course, tomorrow. Other than that, so I started with the C group. Maybe we should start with the A group, because I do not think the second round has started yet. As I said, the first round is over. So let's start with Group A, actually. So the results of Group A. The Finance University under the government, the Russian team, actually beat their opponents, the Khvorov University Management and Business, 4-0. So a big score. We actually had one group where there were only 4-0 scores. But let's continue. The Goryachev University from India, they beat the Kingston Business School of London 3-1. So big win for the Indian University. Their colleagues from the Sri Ram College of Commerce, also from India, they lost to the Mulungushi University. The score was 2.5, 1. Graduate School of Business from Russia beat the Escuela Superior de Economía from Mexico 3-1. So those were the scores in the B group. Then in the C group, and no, the games are, I think, let me know in the chat if the games are starting, but I think we're still waiting for round 2 to start. So Group C, I mentioned it already, a big draw between the University of Toronto and the Skolkovo, the Moscow School of Management A team. I think those are two of the strongest teams, not just in this group, but maybe in the whole event. So who knows, maybe we will see another duel between these teams in the knockout stages on Sunday. We will find out later. Then in the same group, the Indian Institute of Management, Jammu, the second team, beat the Business School, IMD, from Switzerland 4-0. The Adam Smith Business School from Scotland beat Chicago Booth 3-1, and the Brooke Besor University beat the Escuela Superior de Comercio y Administración 3-1. So I think actually the draw between the University of Toronto and the Moscow School of Management A team, I think the only draw of this first round of this FIDE Binance Business Schools Super Cup. And finally, in the D group, all results ended 4-0. So the Perm State National Research University from Russia beat the Chittagong University 4-0. Actually, I'm just seeing now, all the teams that won 4-0 were all Russian teams. The Moscow School of Management 2, I think that's the Skolkovo School, they beat the University of Fiji 2-4-0. Ranepa beat TA Pi Management Institute 1-4-0, and the Higher School of Economics beat the Bharati Dasan Institute of Management 4-0 as well. So those are the results. Those are the results of the first round, and now we are waiting for the second round to start. And maybe we can have a quick look at the pairings. Actually, let's have a quick look at the pairings. I did prepare something to show you. Let me see if this is going to work. It is working. So actually, I could have just shown you the results. So maybe one more time. I'm hearing there was maybe some audio which wasn't working at all times. So you can see the results here. You can see them here one more time. Let me move my webcam out of the way a little bit. So the results here in Group A, and then we go on over to Group B. I'm not going to read them out one more time because they all have long names, but you can see for yourselves. And then I think most interestingly, we will come back to the Group C, to who the players are. Group C, let's show the results first. And then, of course, this group of death, Group D, where all the matches ended 4-0. So a lot of decisive results here. But let me come here to this, what I think are two of the strongest teams. So we talked about this draw between the University of Toronto and the Moscow School of Management, where, by the way, Oxana, who you have seen on the show, she's one of our 3 hosts, she is actually on the team. You cannot see the roster here because we can have a look at the roster in a second, but she is the team captain. She's also one of the players. So I'm curious, will we see her play at some point? But Joël Lottier, he won his first round game against Jafarian Kusha. And then on the second board, that's where Toronto got their revenge, where Joseph Bellissimo beat Alexander Bryushinin. And then the bottom 2 boards were draws between Dai Vanji for Toronto and Ekaterina Kirsanova, and between Diana Nazibulina and Anton Kozlov. So a very, very tough group here. We also see the Scottish team, the Scottish school, the Adam Smith Business School, also off to a strong start. And maybe we can have a very quick look at the team compositions without the round results. So we see the University of Toronto with a very compact team, actually. Maybe one thing we should mention, every team has 4 players and 2 reserves. At least 1 player has to be male and at least 1 player has to be female. The reserves, each team can have 1 male and 1 reserve and 1 female reserve player. Or maybe the 2 reserves can actually be... Now I'm not sure. Now I've confused myself. But each team can have 2 reserve players, and there we see, I think, the favorites for the whole event. And Oxana is cropped up because I've put the... Let me just quickly show Oxana because I cannot scroll further down. But Oxana, they're on board 6 for the Skolkovo, the Moscow School of Management A team, which is, I think, the team to beat in this tournament. I think they're big favorites, but sometimes it's not easy. Being the favorites is not always easy. So we will see if they can live up to the expectations. We're still waiting for round 2 to start. Maybe while we wait, we can go through some games of round one. So let me see, round one, I'm gonna try and find Joël Lautier's game. Just give me 1 second. As you know, there's a lot of games, so I'm gonna, let me just scroll down. Let me scroll down, and there is Joël's game. So let me bring up the board. So Joël was playing
Сейчас мы можем посмотреть партию Жоэля Лотье, где он играл в
why the
черную.
board was not properly, why that board was not properly cropped, because I had done it after the game or not. Okay, that's what happened. You couldn't see the names earlier because I had cropped it from a game that was finished rather than in progress. So anyway, so we're looking at the game, and maybe we should look at it from Joël's perspective. So we'll flip the board and we can have a look at Joël Lautier's win with the black pieces here against Mr. Goryachev, who has a pretty impressive Lichess rating of 2500 plus. So we had a Sicilian game, and then some kind of Rossolimo where black develops the bishop to b5, and now knight to d4.
Да, это напоминает где-то вариант Россолима, правда, конь на f3.
To f3, and e6 was played. So already some slightly, well, not slightly offbeat. The main move for black is to capture the bishop on b5, but e6 was played. And now white captured on d4, which is quite rare because
это, наверное, ошибка. Сейчас вообще хода нету. На конь e2 есть ход ферзь g5. Ферзь g5. Нет, ферзь g5, известная позиция. Нет, ферзь g5. Вот это, конечно. Ферзь g5, нет хода вообще. Понимаете, что после ферзь g5 нельзя бить конем пешку. Из-за ферзь c5 и теряется конь, и теряется фигура. Ферзь g5 просто выигрывает пешку здесь сразу. И, видимо, партию. Ферзь g5 сдаться надо. Да, ферзь g5 и все. Он пошел Жоэль ферзь b6, это странно.
So knight e2 and queen b6 was played now, defending the pawn on d4, but also hitting the bishop on d5, so the bishop went back to d3, and Joël continued his development by playing knight e7 and bringing the knight to c6 to defend the pawn on d5. Now white castled, black played bishop e7, black is also looking to complete development by castling.
Пешка на d4 очень сильная, трудно что-то сделать.
White is looking
to
take some ground on the king side, which Joël, very often actually we see this happen in chess. Very often you're told if your opponent plays on one of the two sides, on the king side, on the queen side, there's a voice speaking over me. I think that's because we're also live on the Russian channel, I believe. Hopefully you can still hear me properly. If not, I will make sure to let someone know. So let me know if you can still hear me fine. So what I was saying, very often when one side plays on one of the two flanks, either on the queen side or on the king side, it makes a lot of sense for black to hit, or like for the opponent side to counter in the center. So this is exactly what Joël does here with d5. And after f4, d takes, bishop takes, we can actually see that black's position is already quite nice here, except as the same that the game that we saw, this bishop on c8 is currently locked in by its own two pawns, but Joël has a nice center. He has the rook looking down at the white queen, and surprisingly white here decided to give up the bishop pair by taking on c6. I think what white wanted was to take this pawn, and it looks at first like that is a free pawn, you might be thinking, what is she talking about? Why is white not just winning a pawn here? But Joel is going to show us that, I think, in style. So he has given up a pawn, but in return he gets to activate this bishop, which was doing nothing on c8. The bishop right now is looking at the rook on e1, and after the rook on f1, and after the rook moves to e1, now we see those two bishops beautifully aligning across the board, and that is the power of the bishop pair. The knight drops back. The problem is this knight was attacked 3 times, only defended once by the pawn. So either that knight had to move, which it did, and then Joel immediately regains his pawn on c3, which of course cannot be captured because of the pin along the d-file. So rook b1, and now Joel, all the pieces are flying in, the queen to f2, and once again these bishops are just such powerful pieces, and it's a beautiful illustration of the power of the bishop pair. Rook b3, now the bishop is attacked, so Joel drops the bishop back to f6. White is looking to exchange those bishops, but there is no respite for white. Now the rook is hit, and the problem is if the rook moves, well, the bishop on b2 is hanging. The only concern is this queen. This queen doesn't really have too many squares, but white cannot trap the queen because this bishop on c4 is doing such a great job covering the light squares. So his opponent tried to fight with queen c2, hitting both bishops, but Joel now, well, actually Joel played bishop d4, but there was a beautiful winning move here for white. Of course, it is easier with some computer assistance, but let me put the question to the chat. Who can see, can anyone see a winning move that is creating a big threat here? In fact, it's not a winning tactic, but it's creating a big threat, and it's a very strong move. So I'll give you guys a minute while I try, and it's a sunny day here in Luxembourg, so I'm gonna try and get rid of some of that sun. I'll wait for 1 minute, see if someone can spot a nice move here for black, with black to play. And let me see the second round. Oh, the second round has started. Well, then we come, in that case, we will come back to this later on. Let me bring up the second round. I'll keep this board open so that you can keep pondering what you would do here. And let's see if we can find Joel's game and follow it live for this second round, where he is playing with the white pieces, but unfortunately, it looks like his opponent. Now this is looking fine, so I don't know what exactly happened there, but now I think you can see the board fine. Now let me just move this up the tiniest bit. So Joel, it looks like his opponent might unfortunately just not be there right now. So we will find another game to go to, I think, because we don't want to look at the game. But his teammates, so I guess his teammate will be EK Chess. Maybe Joel's opponent will arrive as well. Maybe the teammates were just a bit late to the game. I think some teams are playing from the same location from their schools. Other, of course, with the pandemic still ongoing, are playing from home. So different teams, different setups. But let's see. So we're looking at this. This is board 2 for the Skolkovo. Let me see if I can quickly bring up the pairings for this round. Can I do that? No, I can't see who's playing, but I guess it is Alexander Bryushin who is playing here with the black pieces. And Bob, it is not rook takes d2, although maybe rook d2 is also good. I don't, but there is one move which looks quite unnatural, which is very, very strong. It creates a big threat, so that's my one hint. So here we see the knights being exchanged on c6. We got here from a Sicilian opening, which turned into some kind of French. So it looks like today is French day. Bishop developing to e7, but this time the bishop from c8 is a lot happier than in the previous game. That bishop can go to b7, well, I was gonna say potentially to a6, but the move that white has just played, queen e2, is saying I am firmly controlling this a6 square, so I will not let black develop there. Andre, hello. I see you all in the chat. It's good to have you here, Andre. What is this tournament about? So this is a business schools event. There are 32 teams from 12 countries taking part, and you can find all the information about it on the FIDE website, sponsored by Binance, by Tiger.Trade, and by CryptoUniverse, and in partnership with Skolkovo, the Moscow School of Management, and lichess.org. So we see white has just captured the pawn in the center, but I am a little bit concerned for white, because this bishop and queen battery, looking down at this pawn on g2 right now, queen g2 is a mate in one threat. I'm a little bit concerned here for white. If you have to make a move like f3, this is not what you want. Of course, if white can manage to develop the knight and maybe exchange some pieces, white should be fine. But right now, I think this bishop on b7 is quite strong. Maybe the other bishop will be looking to go to d6 and to attack on h2. So I'm liking black's position so far. Let's quickly see. Joël Lethier's game has also started. So maybe we should watch Joël, because his games, so let me see what is going on here. Let's very quickly go back to the beginning. We had a Slav turned into I'm having a brain slip. A Stonewall, the Stonewall, this formation. It is solid, it has a solid reputation, but if you don't know, the problem with the Stonewall is if you're not completely familiar with the plans and all that, it can backfire quite quickly. So what happened here? Joël attacked the pawn on f5 and took on c5, and now tactics are happening. A discovery here, knight takes d5, taking a pawn, but also open up the queen, which was looking at c5. And with this little tactic, Joël has not only won a pawn, but I am seeing a bad future for the king, for the black king along this diagonal. Bishop e6, knight d4, hitting the bishop retreats to king f1, and now a classy move, king h1, stepping out of any potential. Maybe black was looking to at some point play queen b6. So king h1 is just saying there will be no danger to my king in the future. There will be no checks. I am up a pawn. I have the bishop pair, and Joël Lothier in great shape here in this game. Knight d7 was just played, hitting the queen on c5. Oops, once again, that was my mouse slip, and now I've lost the game. So let me quickly find Joël's game again. There it is. We see already some first results have come in. Some first results have come in during this second round, and Joel is still thinking, where is he going to put this queen? Do we want to go forward? Do we want to go to d6? Will we just drop back along the c file? And he decides to go forward, which I like. Queen d6, and after knight b6, once again a big question. Now, do we trade queens? Do we keep queens? Do we go this way? And Joel decides to go back to g3, looking at the king. That's why we see black make the same decision. Same decision as white to get that king out of harm's way onto h8. But Joel, bishop d2, that bishop would love to come to c3. If we can somehow chase away this knight, if we could kick away that knight from this beautiful central square d5, then white would be pretty much winning, I think, if we can get the bishop on this diagonal. So rook d1, right now there's a lot of pieces on this d file, as we can see. It's almost completely filled up. Only 2 free squares remain. But sometimes that rook is already looking down at the black queen. And black should be a little worried. I think there is nothing happening yet, but maybe white is looking to open up the position at some point with e4. And there could be some trouble here very, very quickly. I think objectively the position is already winning for white. And I think Joel is going to show us how it's done. It's also a position that is just very, very difficult. Very difficult to play for black because white has so many different threats, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the move e4 now, just opening things up in the center, trying to destabilize this knight and just creating some more openness. What the bishop pair loves is open positions, and e4 would be trying to open the position even more. I would say it is already an open position, but now it will be opener. It will be even more open. What can black do? Maybe black should not capture, but if he doesn't capture any other moves, they are all tricky. So knight b4 was played, hitting the bishop on d3, and now here comes the counter attack. Bishop g5 hitting the queen. Queen goes to c7, and this king is all alone. That bishop, will it go to f6 immediately? Will it wait? I'm a little bit concerned that this king is in some serious trouble. So let's see what Joel comes up with. He still has 6 minutes on the clock. He does go for bishop f6. King g8 is the only move now. And the question is there already some immediate KO here? Is black going to resign? If black is thinking, then he might have been considering resigning, because king g8, of course, was the only move. And there is actually a beautiful, I believe, a beautiful tactical shot here. And here it is. Knight takes f5. And the point is, if black takes the queen, we will not recapture, but knight h6. Knight h6 is actually a mate threat right now, with the king having no squares. So h5, trying to create an escape route for the black king, but that king is not going to escape. I don't know if we can bring the queen closer. That's what he goes for, queen g5. That queen is looking to come into h6 and deliver mate on g7. And this, I think, is very close to being game over. I see that on board 3 and 4, the Skolkovo Moscow School of Management have already won their respective games. So this, I think, is going to be a big win for the team. After this game has wrapped up and it's almost over, surely there's a mate here somewhere, and Joel is finding that mate real quick. King f7, queen g7, king has to run to e6, and Joel is just thinking, where is the mate? But it is there, and he will find it. The king is trying to run for its life. That king is trying to run for its life. But after knight d4 check, there was the mate. It all happened so fast. Knight d4 check, the king only has one square, d6, and after queen takes f8, king d7, queen e7 was a lovely checkmate. So that's a 3-0 lead for the Skolkovo A team. And let's have a look now at their board 2-player EK chess playing against Chilish and Kandu. So we see also here both players with a similar-ish lead chess rating. But what is going on the position? Queens have just come off the board. Material is even. Clock is also pretty much even. I suspect black is going to push that pawn, although black decides to create this pin here and put pressure and now play e4. And I think black should be a little bit better here, just thanks to this passed pawn. But it's not an easy. This is going to be a fighting endgame here. Maybe white can try to activate the knight. Or maybe activate this bishop, which actually this bishop is not doing anything any longer here. It is just looking at the black pawns. And now I'm very curious to see what will black's plan be. How is black, I'm sure black is looking to win this game, but how is black looking to make progress here? So bishop a4, hitting the rook on d1. And actually, that rook, so what happens if the rook goes to c? Well, I can't make moves. But I think there was a problem. There was a problem with rook c1. I'm not immediately sure what it was. Maybe it's just that this pawn was going to push. Oops, sorry, excuse me. So b3 was played. Which also makes a lot of sense. b3 cannot be captured, of course, because it is defended by the knight on d4. So black will be looking to drop that bishop back, probably to d7. We didn't want to go to any of those squares because we didn't want white to allow white to capture our bishop. And now the other bishop comes in. The bishop was hitting. That's one of the drawbacks of b4, is that of playing b3, of course, is that you give up the defense. Oops. That you give up the defense of the pawn on a3, and after playing a4, the bishop comes to b4 looking down at this rook, and this bishop now is a beautiful place. It's going to be really hard to kick it out. And I think black is making some big progress here. The rook might have to go back to f1. Actually, I think it has to go back to f1 for sure, because after rook e2 there is a fork here on c3. So, and this square is defended, so I think rook f1 is the only move to get that rook out of danger. So what white is still thinking, just give me 1 second. So rook f1, finally white made up his mind and saved the rook. So now e3 is played, and only for now white is only hanging on thanks to that knight on d4, because if it wasn't for that knight, black could just push the pawn, attacking both rooks. So what black, I'm sure, is thinking about is, how can I get rid of this knight? Can I maybe play bishop c5? Are there some other tactics? Maybe e2 was a tactic, and after knight takes, there was a fork here. A lot going on in this game. a lot going on in this game. And by the way, very exciting news, after this round, we will be talking to the Fiji team who is taking part in this competition. I think the round is already getting very close to being over. I see a lot of results have come in already. We will stick around with this game, then we'll see what else is going on. But right now, rook e1 was played, and while I was not looking, how did that pawn? Oh, e2, bishop c5 was of course a big threat, which maybe was missed by white as he captured that pawn. But e2, and now the knight cannot capture because it is pinned to the king, so white took on d8. But after rook takes d8, the same threat is still alive. And after rook e1, black captured on d1, and black is now up a piece. You might say white has 2 pawns, but the problem is there is just too many loose pieces. The bishop on b1 is going to drop now, and after that there is still this pin. This is completely game over. I expect resignation here from white in a second. At this stage, it is 2 full pieces. It is the bishop pair, and the bishop pair is a lot stronger than the pawn pair. But white decides to fight on. It is a blitz game after all, and black is down to just over a minute on the clock. That king is running to h3. I was wondering, could we not try and... Oh, well, the mate did happen. The mate did happen. So that is a 4-0 victory for the Skolkovo, the Moscow School of Management A-team. 4-0 victory. I've managed to find a rook ending, and it's the same player we were looking at in round 1, Sanjoy Koo, and this time things are looking difficult as well. For a second I thought, oh, things are looking nice, we are up a pawn in the endgame, but very often in the endgame it's not about how many pawns, but how advanced the pawns are. Here now the big c3 pawn drops, which means those 2 pawns are going to become very loose, and this pawn is going to run quickly. This f pawn is going to run quickly, but white needs to create some counterplay. White will be looking to get behind this pawn. I think rook f5 has to be played to stop the pawn, and maybe this is not so easy. Maybe this is not so easy. Because now I think white can just force a draw here. I think we will see a draw. Maybe there was some missed opportunities in this endgame. But rook endings, they are tough. Rook endings are very, very tough. Was draw agreed yet? Not yet, but this is pretty elementary. Basically, white can just not make any progress. Black should just go in front of the pawn, and even if black just waits along this d-file, white will be unable to make any progress as the king is cut off, so that king cannot join the game. So I think the easiest way is just to stay on the d-file, or actually now to come behind. Well, black has decided this is even easier. And are they gonna play? If they play rook against rook, we are not going to stick around. It looks like they... Oh, but maybe black has connection issues. Could black have some connection issues? But black has blitzed his way up to 10 seconds. Holy moly! That was very sneaky by white. Black did not expect it, played king b4 in a hurry, and that rook dropped. What an incredible swindle by white this was. And what is going on here? From a rook ending to complete madness, complete fire on board here. A lot of things are hanging. White is actually a FIDE master. Black's rating probably is not accurate at all. And what did we just see? Knight takes g6, queen e1, and I have no idea what is going on here. Material is surprisingly even. Queens have come off, which is going to make our task a little bit easier. it's going to make our tasks a little bit easier, but still, that white king is completely boxed in by the 2 pawns. I suspect white should be better because the bishop, the long-range piece, should be more dangerous here. Careful, we don't want to take that pawn because this would be not checkmate, but we would have to give up the bishop. That's why the pawn was not captured. But white is making some preparation moves to try and take the pawn, but suddenly a2 is falling. And suddenly it might be white who is losing here. This is such a crazy, completely crazy game. Let me get rid of the sun in my face. The sun in my face. And what is this? I look away for 1 second and the bishop drop. How did that bishop drop? That bishop was just dropped, but was there a threat? I'm not sure if there was a threat. I think white could have captured this pawn. But that bishop was given up. And why is black not... Okay, black is trying to bring the king, I think, to help stop the pawns. And after king c6, white resigned because white can never take the knight because that pawn is running. And with this outside passer, wow, a huge win here for the player with the black pieces. And I think it was the last game. I think it was the last game of this second round. So we're going to go back actually in a second to the studio, and there was almost no games drawn. I'm scrolling down the games. I count 1 draw here. Only 1 draw. Out of the 60 live boards we have, there was only 1 draw. So an incredibly fighting round we had, and very soon I think there will only be a brief break in between rounds. We will be talking to the Fiji team, and then there will be 2 more rounds to go today, then 3 more tomorrow, and then tomorrow evening we will find out who are the 2 teams. So let's remind everyone, 2 teams from each group will be qualifying to the knockout, and then the format for the knockout on Sunday, so at 4 p.m. Central European Summer Time, 2 p.m. UTC, we will have the quarterfinal. Then 1 hour later, we will have the semi-final. And finally, at 4 o'clock, the final will take place. In case of a tie, so I think the format will be the same, 10+2. In case of a tie, there will be a blitz match. If the blitz match is still tied, then each team will select one of their players to play an Armageddon game, and colors will be drawn. So then we'll get an Armageddon. So Sunday is going to be a very, very exciting day with some teams being eliminated. I think knockout is always such an interesting format, and it will prepare us as well for the World Cup, which will be starting in Sochi, Russia, just the very next day, on Monday. The World Cup gets underway. I'm sure this is an event that I'm very excited for, that many of you will be very excited for, and that will be the knockout format. Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, he will be taking part. He has never won the World Cup, so I'm sure he will be looking to win it. But before we go back to the studio, I did give you this position earlier in the chat. I said there was a very nice move here for black, for Joël Lautier. He did not play the move, of course, he still won the game, but what is the move that I was talking about that is setting a big, big threat here for black? So I'm looking. Actually, let me look at the Russian. So I was just looking at the English chat until now, but the Russian stream. Привет, как дела? Let me know if you're watching the Russian show and you know the move, or you think you know what is the move that black could have played here. Let me know in the chat. I will be looking at both chats. A strong move for black is what we're looking for in this position. Will we see anyone taking a shot at solving this? Bishop F1, Joe Bellissimo. Joe Bellissimo, I think he's one of the tournament participants, actually. I think I saw, I think if this is Joseph Bellissimo, who I suspected is, I think he's one of the players. Thank you so much for your contribution, Joe. And Bishop F1 is indeed the move that I was looking for, creating a mate threat against G2. The only way to defend G2 is by playing knight H4. And now the simple move, bishop back to F6, hitting the knight. So beautifully done, nicely solved, Joe. And now we're gonna go back to the studio. So over to you, and we're looking forward to welcoming the Fiji team.
Добрый день, вечер, утро. Где ты нас смотришь, дорогой зритель?
Возвращаемся в студию.
Ненадолго.
Да, но ненадолго, потому что на самом деле перерывы между турами у некоторых групп очень короткие. И мы сейчас связываемся с командой из Фиджи. Фиджи сейчас сколько? 3 ночи, 4 утра?
Там прям раннее утро. Давайте попробуем
very early in the
пообщаться.
morning, for sure. Let's try to communicate. Can you hear us?
Please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. It's around 4 o'clock. Hello. Hi, thank you, thank you. It's good. I forgot the names of my opponent. I'll check it first. I lost on my first match against Alphavi, but by default I won against Genkin. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very well. Yeah, the most important question is, how do you feel? How are you feeling? Because, well, it's harder for the Fiji team right now because it's really late at night. Or is it too early for you?
Yes, it's too early, but we have this experience also last March. We joined a tournament and I was their coach, so the students were playing, but all of us were awake at that time around 1 a.m.
Can you please tell us then, what's the most important for the players when they're, well, going against the clock, when they're playing not in the normal, in the natural circumstances? What do you think is the winning component? What do you cling on to, hang on to, so that you can still be, well, pretty active early in the morning or late at night?
more on I drink 1 cup or 2 cups of coffee to be active in this kinds of situation. And also a very, very cold bath just to make my blood circulate faster.
Yes, and then our favorite question. Yes, of course, my favorite question that I ask to all the participants, to all of my guests tonight, and I will be asking that tomorrow as well. What's chess for you?
Actually, chess is like I can put it as life. You'll win, you'll lose, but you learn. Something like that. So it teaches you patience, how to think critically, and how to act in situations that is very, very dangerous, but you know how to act peacefully.
Beautiful. Chess is love, chess is life, chess is competition. Yes, chess is definitely an analogy of life. This is really strong. And may I express my greatest respect to you, and thanks a lot for joining us today. That's a great honor having you on board, and we're so happy that we have Fiji here on the tournament.
Thank you, Osa.
Yes, I'm afraid we have to say goodbye to you. You need to get going because I know that the next round is starting, and your group, you're being expected. So please come and join your group. Thanks a lot for coming. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay.
All right, so these are the guests we have today joining us from different parts of the world. We have the island state of Fiji. The guys are playing and playing for victory. They stay cool. They take, I don't know, cold shower, cold bath. They drink coffee to fight and to compete with the business schools. Stay tuned and let's see what's happening in our tournament table. And over to Fiona. Fiona will be now observing the third round, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Сейчас ждем начала третьего тура. Это вот-вот должно случиться. Пауза немного короче становится.
Thank you very much, guys. So back in the tournament, I think we have only a few minutes before the next round, the third round of today gets underway. So I suggest that we take a very quick look at the team results. So let's go over there. So round 2, I haven't seen the results yet, so I will discover them at the same time. The University of Fiji, who we just heard, I mean, it's 4 a.m. in the morning. I don't know how they do it. I know he was talking about having some coffee, taking a bath. I know I would struggle if I had to play my games at 4 a.m. So that's some serious dedication. Unfortunately, they lost this round 4-0. The Sri Ram College, they had lost the first round. They bounced back with a win against the Quantic School of Business and Technology. I think I'm not going to read out the entire names every time. But the Kingston Business School of London, they lost 4-0 to the Mulungishi University. And the Russian teams, I think they're really showing some dominance, winning once again 4-0 the Finance University against the Galgotias University. So moving on to Group B, what were the results in Group B? So in Group B, Once again, a good round. Is this the first? I see one loss here for the Russian team, the HSE Graduate School of Business against the FIDE Management Institute from India. So kudos to them. But the MIPT Business School beat their Mexican counterparts 4-0. And we had two more 4-0 results here. The Asian Institute of Management from the Philippines beating MGIMO 4-0, big result. And also the Daffodil International University beating the Indian Institute of Management, JAMU, 4-0 as well. Then finally, well, not finally, but in Group C, what were the results here? Group C is what I dubbed the group of death, with the very strong Skolkovo Moscow School of Management A team beating the Brook-Besor University 4-0. That is actually the match that we were just following in this previous round. And then the Scottish team getting a second win in this group after beating the Escuela Superior de Comercio, and the Chicago booth getting their first win 3-1 against the Indian Institute of Management, JAMU 2. And finally, the University of Toronto, we knew they were good. They had held the Skolkovo team to a draw in round 1. They did the business, pardon the pun, against the business school IMD from Switzerland, winning 4-0. But I see what is happening here. Why is there already a 4-0 result in the third round? I assume that is a mistake. I think round 3 is yet to start. So let's look quickly at Group D. So Group D, what results did we have there? In the first round, it was almost all decisive, but this time some closer results. Still 2 4-0 wins. Perm State National Research University getting their second 4-0 victory. But the TPI Management holding the Higher School of Economics to a 2-2 draw. And the University of Fiji 2, what did they first round? They lost 4-0, but they got their first point, losing 1-3 to Ranepa. And then the Skolkovo Moscow School of Management second team, winning 4-0 again. So great start for the Skolkovo teams. Now let's see. The third round has actually started. So this time maybe we should look at some new. Maybe we should look at some new players that we have not seen yet, and maybe we can start with this match. It's hard for me because I only see the Lichess usernames, but it is the match at the very top that I'm seeing. So we'll just start, or maybe we can jump around until we see something which will catch our eye. What is going on here? This looks quite interesting, actually. Maybe we can start here. Or if anyone has anywhere where they would like to start, just let me know. If there is one game in particular that you would like to see, we can do that. Maybe I will keep scrolling. I will always look at the top board of each match and see if there is something, if something catches our eye in particular. What has happened here? Maybe we can go back to the start here, because this seems to have gone wrong for black already. So, oh, this is a painful mouse slip. It is, of course, so great that we can still have these tournaments online in the pandemic, but King F8 is not a move that the player with the blank pieces would have played over the board. But that is just part of online chess. Mouse slips, nobody is safe. We see them across all levels, and it looks like, unfortunately, after the mouse slip, the position collapsed quite quickly. White took on e7, and after queen takes, all the white pieces are joining the action. Queen d3 preparing to bring the rooks. So after knight d7, first rook e1 to defend the pawn on e5. And after knight takes e5, rook takes, bishop e6. Now we take the d file and c6. I mean, this is just a full piece up for white. Black is not going to survive here. Let's see if white can find a way end black's suffering quickly. What happens? No, oh, sorry, there was still a square here. Never mind, oops, and that was my move again. I did not mean to do that. I'm so sorry. Let me bring the game back up. Nope, now I've lost the game. Where did that game go? Where did the game go? Okay, here we are, we're back in it. So white did actually give a check, but on d6 and after king g8, queen e7 was played. I talked earlier about exchanging pieces. In general, you want to exchange pieces when you are the one who is up material. So it makes a lot of sense here that white is looking for the queen exchange and to just simplify matters. So I think we're going to move on from this game, just because this is completely winning. This is completely winning for white. This is okay, maybe we can stick here. So we're watching, although this is Mr. Kushau. We've already seen plenty of his games, so no offense, but we'll just try and see some new players. This one is looking not so great for black with this bishop blocked in. And there's a lot of squares where, so the problem right now for black is black cannot recapture the bishop on f6 because knight d7 would be a big fork against the rook and the queen, which means that black probably has to capture with the pawn, but then the king will find himself very, very vulnerable on d8. So maybe we'll stick around here for a little while, and remember, if you have any suggestions in the chat for which games you would like to look at, just let me know. I'm keeping an eye on both chats. So queen g4 coming in with a check, king h8 is the only move. And then I'm curious, we have to do something with that knight. Where is that knight going to go? Is it going to go back to f3? Is it going to back to d3 or to c4? So those are the choices for white, and white decides to go to d3. So maybe what white is looking for, first of all, white is looking at that bishop, but also potentially looking to jump to f4 and h5 and create some play. But black is doing something which makes a lot of sense. Black is looking for some active counterplay, maybe a move like rook g5 and looking to double the rooks and create some pressure against this point on g2. Bishop c8. The problem is this is hanging a piece, and I don't think there is enough counterplay. I think black's idea was that black wanted to go to h3, but the problem is after queen takes c5, that just drops a full piece, and I'm curious, is white going to see? Is white going to see that that bishop is attacked twice and only defended one time? Because any other move, if white doesn't see the bishop, then there might be some trouble. But of course, white spots the hanging bishop, and bishop g2 creating that threat. But now white simply says, I will take that queen. And now white is going to take everything. And this is going to be game over here in just a second. After rook g7, maybe white is simply going to take the rook and take the bishop and say, I am one rook and two knights up, which is probably the easiest way to do it. It's not the only way. Of course, you can also bring another knight. Maybe he will keep the queen and just try and find a quicker checkmate. I'll wait one more move and then we will also move on from here, because there is no doubt in my mind that white is going to win. White is going to win this game. In fact, maybe we should move on, because this is only a matter of time before white wins this game. So interestingly enough, white didn't do any of these things I said, just played g3 and said, I'm going to keep my king safe. You can take my rook, that is fine, but I'm still a full queen up. You are still pinned. So I will move on from this game, and I can tell you, unless white loses connection or makes a few horrible blunders, this game will be ending with a win for white. So let's see this next match. So we see two lower weighted players. So that's also quite interesting. I think there's always a lot to be learned. But here, so white just dropped the rook. F3 is being played. White should have tried, of course, to recapture the bishop. The position would still be difficult because white would be down in exchange. But still, actually, this bishop is not going anywhere. But what black can do is black can take on c2 and weaken the white king a little further. So let's see, what does black do? And black goes for bishop takes c2. So now white is really forced to recapture that bishop. Otherwise, the bishop will be exchanging itself for the knight. So king takes c2, I think, has to be played here. But these are more beginner players, and I think that's one of the beautiful things of this event. Is in general, in my line of work as a commentator, I almost only commentate on the top GM games, which tend to be not boring, but I mean they tend to be quite perfectly played, very well played. So I always find looking at games from people who have not been playing for so long or have more of a beginner level very interesting. And I also feel that for you people watching out there, there's a lot to be learned from these games. And of course, that's the whole aim of this event, is the alumni and the employees of the business schools that are taking part. We never actually talked about this, but every school is only allowed to have one guest player who has nothing to do with the university. The rest either have to be students or employees of the school or university. And it's a great way to connect chess and business, give them all networking opportunities, but also chess is such a useful tool, and it's great to see it be implemented in more and more schools and universities. So here we see white is putting up a fight. White is down in exchange. No, actually white, I miscounted. White is down a full rook. White is down a full rook here, but he is fighting. Let's see. Can we see a comeback here from the player with the white pieces? I would probably take with the pawn, because once again, remember what I said earlier. If you are the one who are down material, you don't want to exchange pieces. If you are the one who is up material, then you want to exchange pieces. So pawn takes, which I think is the right decision. Maybe black is going to take that pawn, which would be bad news. Now, I think we have to run to try and hide with the king on the other side of the board. So I expect king d1 to be played. And white is surviving for now. Of course, the position objectively is lost. And one problem that white has, white should try to look to activate this bishop. For now, let's keep running. King e2. Defending the knight on d3, because right now we are in check and the knight is attacked. Actually, king e1 is also a move, because the bishop is still defending the knight. And now finally black has to make a decision. Where is black going to go with that knight that is attacked? So black is still thinking. 4 minutes on the clock. Also the clock, I always think in these spots, when we're watching two more beginner, like two less experienced players, let's say, the clock is a huge aspect of the game. Sometimes when the players drop to under 2 minutes or something like that, then anything can happen. Blunders, mistakes start creeping in. So, for example, I would probably, if I were white, I would just take this piece, which is hanging on f6. Of course, the king is still in a lot of danger. The rook is looking to come in, but there is nothing we can do. There is nothing we can do about that anyway. So we might as well take on f6, which has just been played. And now I'm curious, what will black do? Is black going to take here? Is black going to take here? Is black going to take here? So knight takes f6 is played. And now probably white should keep taking things. Probably white should take the pawn on a5 to at least try and stop the rook from joining the game for now. It will be hard to keep the rook out for a long time, but at least for now we can try to keep the rook out. Both players around the 3-minute mark. A lot of results have already come in this round. We will of course also go to Joël Lothier in a bit to see, is Joël still playing? Let me see. Excuse me. There's so many games. It's great to see so many teams taking part, but it means it's a harder job for me. Maybe Joël is resting this round. Maybe that's why I cannot find him. Or maybe I'm just blind, but I cannot see Joël in the list. So let's stick around this game here, where white has also done something another move which makes sense is to get the queen into the game. Maybe we cannot really capture that because of rook e1, but at least we're activating the pieces. And after h6, the knight is just dropping back. And the player with the white pieces, actually, it looks like their teammates are winning, if I'm not mistaken. It's hard to see who are the teams. But let's see. Let's see how much of a fight can white put up here. Is white going to take some more material? And I think that's what he did. I hope that wasn't me. I think queen takes c6 was played. And maybe if we can get our king into safety and bring one more rook, of course it's a lot to ask for. We are still down a full rook. But let's see. I like the way. I think white is putting up a great fight for now, but black is also playing well, giving very little chances. So black's idea, of course, now after taking that pawn is that our rook is free to join the game now. But white has also, he's just taken that pawn, and I like the way that white is fighting. I'm curious, where are we going to go? Are we going to go to e2, to f2? Both are difficult. I'm not going to lie, the position is very difficult. If white could get rid of this pawn and maybe steal a piece somewhere, I think white has to hope for something like white has to move the king, and let's say, for example, black moves the knight. Black thinks, let me activate the knight and activate the bishop, and then we could take that rook on e8, which is undefended. So those are the sort of things that you can fight for in these positions, even after knight c1. In general, a move like, for example, knight d5 now would be a good move to bring the knight into the game, to open up the bishop. But, of course, what I'm saying is that this would fail to the rook hanging. So black has spotted this, plays queen to e6 check. At first I was going to advocate for bishop e2, but that doesn't work for similar reasons. It drops the defense of the h3 knight, so white is going back to d1. And probably now for black, if I could give some advice, and black goes for this move, rook d8, a multi-purpose move. First of all, we are increasing the pressure along the d file, but second of all, we are removing the rook from the square where the queen was hitting at the rook. And now the defensive task is getting harder and harder, unfortunately, for Forum Chef, who's playing here with the white pieces. But we take another pawn, and we take a pawn, and at the same time we defend the bishop. But now maybe it is time for this move that we were talking about earlier. Knight d5, attacking the queen and threatening some discoveries. Queen d7 I also like a lot, putting some pressure along this d file. And queen c3 is a very dangerous move, because now this knight is screaming. This knight is screaming, use me, play me. Maybe knight e4. Knight e4 is a beautiful move because that bishop is getting freed. That bishop is both attacking the queen and defending the rook if we move the knight. It's not an easy tactic to spot, so let's see. Is black, by the way, black's time is ticking down, only 35 seconds on the clock. Of course, black can also just move the rook, but a knight move would be very powerful and very beautiful. So let's see. Is black, the main thing is black has, oh, the clock is maybe lagging behind a little bit, so black actually played knight e4 very quickly, which is great, and now that is checkmate. So nice conversion there by black, and this is a more high level game, but black is crushing it here. Black is taking it to the Z killer. The Z killer, I think, is about to get killed in this game. Black is up in exchange, and this king is on the verge of being in huge trouble. There is also the pin along the second rank. So how is black going to end things here? It feels like there should be something. It feels like mate should be not too far away. King h2. We would love to bring the queen. I don't know, can we bring the queen here, here, here? So many squares. So queen e4 was chosen. King h3. That king has no more squares now. The question is, how do we checkmate the king? Maybe a simple conversion would be rook here. But now white went to capture a pawn here. So what happened after the check? Black played rook f4, and the queen leaves the side of the king, and now the king is going to get mated. White resigned here, so very nice game. Let's go back. We started with this game, actually. We started with Pretty Boy against VP setter, so FIDE Master VP setter, and the FIDE Master is showing his dominance here. It's an extra rook, an extra bishop. This is a last desperado, but white has just resigned, so this game is also over. Only very few games remain. Let's have a look at this. TR Kirs against Mashane, or Mashane, I don't know how it's pronounced. This is very close to being over. It is checkmate. So moving on to the next game, Alfie Aviel against Ivan Volodin, and this is one of the last 3 games still going. It is an extra piece, an extra rook for white, but queens are always dangerous. Here the king should be relatively safe, as long as, I really like that the queen went here to defend the rook, as long as we keep, I think. Okay, so queens are exchanged, which will lead to a very simple win for white. White is just going to bring the king over, and that is going to be that. Now, if black runs, white is just going to bring the rook back and take everything. And we see a resignation here. So now only 2 games remain. One of them is this one, where white is just up a full rook. So let me see if the other is more exciting. Let's go to this one instead. So one of our 2 games that are still going is this rook ending. And we have already seen it many times today. Rook endings are very, very tricky. In this case, I think it's another case of material is even, but this pawn is just more advanced. But it's really tough, because white can also maybe at some point start creating. The problem is black is just going to run this h-pawn. Black is going to try and give up the h-pawn and then run this pawn at the same time. I think something has gone wrong here for white somehow, and black is going to use these 2 passed pawns, I think, to get a nice win here. White is trying to break in this ending. But the problem is, maybe black can even just go back. No, black stops that pawn with the rook and is going to support the h-pawn with the king, and white resigns, which leaves us with only this ending, but this isn't gonna go on for too much longer. maybe Black is looking for a stalemate here. I don't think he's gonna get it. I don't think there's any way to even set up a stalemate trick. The easiest checkmate, I always think, is the ladder checkmate. I think King, well, didn't happen the way I thought it would, but this was good enough. And that brings us already to the end of this third round. So for today, only one round remains. Only one round remains for today. Tomorrow we'll have 3 games, and then at the end of tomorrow's day, we will know who are the 8 teams that will advance to the quarterfinals. So right now, 32 teams from 12 countries are in the competition, but by Sunday there will be only 8. So only the 8 best will be battling it out for this FIDE Binance Business School Super Cup. It's been a lot of fun, actually. I think we've seen a lot of very entertaining games so far. I think there will be a short break before the last round. I think especially our players from Fiji, I think we have so many different time zones who are taking part in this event. We saw the players from Fiji in the interview just a minute ago. It's 4 a.m. where they are. I'm curious, are they going to go back to bed after playing? Are they going to start their workday? But yeah, different approaches. We really have teams from all over the world. Of course, there are many Asian teams. There is one team, for example, from the Philippines. Let me see, what is the time? What is the time in Manila now? It must be pretty late. It is almost 1 a.m. Almost 1 a.m. in Manila. So some players, I'm sure, will be looking to go to bed, while other players will be looking to start their day. Of course, there's many US teams, there's teams from Canada, so for some of them, might be early morning, but all of them have chosen to play here today and have been putting up some great fight. Once again, let me check one thing. I always love checking for each round how many draws there are, because it's such another thing which is very exciting about not commentating on the top games, is that we get very few draws. And in fact, in this round, out of the 60 live boards that I'm seeing, not a single draw. Not a single draw. Can I show you guys? Let me see. I think I should be able. My camera now it's a bit in the wrong place. But here are the results. Not a single draw. And that is one of the beautiful things about this kind of event. Also this format, 10+2, it's quite fast, but the 2-second increment still makes sure that players are not going to get flagged, that they still have enough time to checkmate if they get to such a position. So yeah, some very, very good stuff. And I'm looking forward to the last round. The last round of the day, which will be starting, I guess, not too long from now. We will be going back to the studio in between. Actually, the studio, they are ready now, so over to you, and we'll be back here in just a moment for the final round for today.
Yeah. And we have participants from 2 teams, both representing Skolkovo Business School. Yeah, they rushed in our studio. You know what they've been doing 20 seconds before that? They looked at the chessresults.com and they've been watching the games and they've been watching the outcomes. And for the first time during the day, I'm logging onto the chess results and I've got questions to teams. What is actually happening? And thanks a lot, guys. And hello. That is quite unexpected. When a tournament starts, especially when it's an online tournament, you've got lots of technical issues. There might be some misunderstandings, some glitches and yawns. And I see that Team 1 in our table is at the 3rd place. Sasha, what's happening? Can you explain? Everything is going well. 2 games in a row, we've won 4-0, 4-0. We had some problems with the first round because of the technical glitches. We've been given a loss, and it means, yeah, because of that, the teams played in a draw. I hope that soon the organizers will improve the situation and everything will be normal. How are the things with the second team? I'm looking at the D results and I see that you're at number 2. Yeah, we have a very dense and a very closely knit team. The first 2 games were won. We won against our Bangladesh and Fiji friends. The final game was with a Russian team. It also ended in a draw. Yeah, but it's a team which is a favorite in the game. It's quite interesting to play in it, considering that we try to organize an international tournament, which I hope will become a tradition. Any impressions about the tournament? I remember which impressions you had when we conducted a corporate championship. They say it's an online tournament happening somewhere outside, online, you're just logging onto the platform. But when you connect to the playing Zoom, when you have lots of windows and you see participants from different countries, something happens within you. Is that true? Yes, something does happen. It's like before the lockdown, as if the borders are open and you can travel again. In our group, we had teams from Fiji, Bangladesh, and India. And it's very interesting to brew not just in your own broth, meaning play against your own Russian playmates, but reach the international level. Do you have a tradition, a rite, some particular habit that you do before? Establish a join chat, start a chat in WhatsApp. Now, apart from that, some of the things that stand out is however well your referees work. In any case, you still have 5 to 10 minutes of waiting. And my the things I do is I try to calm myself down, saying that time, this is something that we can't do anything with, and we just wait calmly and patiently. Of course, there are more traditions in face-to-face chess, in live and physical chess. In the children tournaments, you know, the first to arrive for a match wins, or the one wearing a lucky t-shirt wins, the one who took more pens to put down your moves also wins, and the one who takes Twix chocolate to a match also wins. We used to have teams who even wore special scarves, like striped scarves. Of course, you have more rights and more traditions like that in face-to-face chess. We have a question to Oxana. Oxana is being registered as a player for Team 1. Team 1 doesn't play that well. When are you going to come and make our team stronger? I hope that I'll be able to join, at least for just one match, to my team, because it's always a very interesting play. It's always nice to take part in the real event, in the real cup, in the real tournament. Hopefully, tomorrow we will come down a little bit, and of course, day 1 is always a very nervous and a very busy one. Hopefully tomorrow I'll ask to be put in the main squad. I really want to get out of the substitute section, and I can fully replace you here in the studio. I've got another traditional question to you guys. Shortly, what's chess for you? For me, chess is a communication opportunity with lots of people, including my son. Wow, that is interesting. Moving on. I'm training from very early on. I've been training since childhood, and at some point in time, chess was a life for me. Then they turned into a hobby. Now it's a competition. A competition, yes. For me, chess is just a pleasure and a way to train my brain. It's a pleasure and a way to train your brain? It's for the 5th or the 6th time that I'm asking what's chess, and I've never had a similar answer to that. Every time you say something new, it's a competition. We also had love, we also had self-expression and self-actualization. We also had communication. It's surprising, it's really interesting. I'm worrying for the guys. The time is running short, and soon the final round will start. I wish to you success and good luck. Really hope that you will win. Sergey, Alexander, Tigran are all graduates and alumni of our business school here at Skolkovo, and then the members of our chess club, without whom this event would not be possible. Thank you so very much, guys, for coming. Thank you, and good luck, good luck. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Now, we are back to amazing Fiona here. Fiona is commentating on the 4th round already. Yes, she'll be commentating on the 4th round, which will be the closing round of today's competition. And after the 4th round, we'll be back in the studio and we'll draw the conclusions. And we'll try to take some other players or colleagues, well, not colleagues, friends. Tigran used a very right word. We'll try to connect colleagues from other countries and friends from other countries. Whether it will be possible or not, we don't know. But please stay tuned, as they say. We will soon be back here. Over to our amazing Fiona.
In Group A, results are getting tighter. Only 1-4-0. It was for Kulna University against Goryachev University. Then we had a draw here, a draw between Mulungushi University and the Finance University. And then the Quantic School beat Kingston Business School 3-1, and the same 3-1 score in favor of Sriram College of Commerce against the University of Fiji. Then in Group B, what were the results in Group B? I'm not sure, by the way, if you could hear all of that, but let's hope you could hear all of the results. In Group B, a lot of big results. We see 3 times one team won 4-0 by the highest of margins. Well, we actually saw there were no draws. So MIPT won 4-0 against the Institute Management, the Indian Institute of Management. Daffodil International University also won 4-0, and MGIMO won 4-0 as well in the Russian duel against the HSE Graduate School of Business. And finally, the Mexican Escuela Superior de Economía beat TA Pi Management, the second team. And then in Group C, let me quickly see, I think we have no games yet, so it's quickly gonna go through the results. Maybe the business school is not able to continue, because I see they have also forfeited for the last round, which is a big pity, of course. So I think this match was actually not played. I think it was already decided on paper. But Chicago Booth going down 4-0 against the University of Toronto, one of, I think, the stronger teams in this competition. And then the Escuela Superior from Mexico, they won against the B team of the Indian Institute of Management. And finally, the Scottish team is also continuing doing well. The Adam Smith Business School, they have won all their matches. And in fact, I think for this fourth round, we will have to follow the match between Skolkovo Moscow School of Management A team and the Adam Smith Business School. I think this will be our top match. Let me see, I think there's still no games. So very quickly, let's look at the results of the D group at the fourth and final group of this FIDE Binance Business School Super Cup, where we had a draw. A draw has been quite rare. We haven't seen too many draws. This time it's between the B team of Skolkovo and the Perm State National Research University. Then Ranepa beat Chittagong 4-0. The Higher School of Economics beat the University of Fiji B team 4-0. And finally, in the Indian clash, the TA Pai Management Institute beat the Bara Tadizan Institute of Management. So those are the results of Group D. And now I think we're ready. We're ready for round 4, and actually it has just started. So let me try and find, as I said, we will be looking at the Skolkovo A team. They're playing against the Adam Smith Business School from Scotland. So let me just find the right boards. I'm looking for Joël Lautier. I hope he's playing, because he's my point of reference. And there he is. So let's bring up the board. So Joël Lautier with the white pieces playing against Opkirs. I think we've seen one of Opkirs' games before, so a tough challenge for Opkirs. Maybe what we could do is we could have a look at one of the lower boards from this match, because I think here there is much more of a rating gap. So this will be an uphill battle for Joël Lautier's opponent. So maybe I will stay in the same match, but I will go to board number 4, where currently Berserk. I hope Berserk is not one of the players that was just in the studio and that he's running late to the board. Let's see. Everyone else is there, so we're just waiting. I think Berserk 1994 is board 4 of Skolkovo, and he has arrived. So he was a minute late. A minute is not the end of the world. That's not too bad. So I suggest that we watch this board number 4 of this match. So in this match, TR Kiers, I'm curious if they are brothers, because there is TR Kiers and Joël Lautier's opponent is OP Kiers. I don't know what is going on there. Maybe we'll find out before tomorrow. But what are we going to have here? Are we going to have a Neudorf? What is it going to be? What is Black's next move? It is A6 and it is a Neudorf. So I'm very happy that we came here. The Neudorf has the reputation of being one of the sharpest, most exciting openings in chess. I am not personally not too familiar with the theory, and I'm glad that's the case, because knowing the theory in the Neudorf takes a long time. It takes a lot of studying. It is probably the richest openings. Almost on every move, there's so many deviations, so many possible ways for both sides. Well, mostly white is the one with all the options. I'm hearing in the chat there is an echo. So let me just see if we can fix that. Thank you for letting me know. So bishop g5, we're still following some big games. I have the opening book open. We're still following a Vishy and Veselin Topalov game, actually, which was played in 1994. So those players, I mean, it is board 4, but they seem to know. They seem to know some theory. Knight takes c6. Now I'm on my own. Knight takes c6 is the first move that is not following anything that was played previously. I did also say this is the most exciting of openings, but this one has taken a more calm turn. It's not an all-out attack. Material is even. Black says, okay, I have a semi-open b file. Let me put my rook to b8 to put pressure on the pawn on b2. White does the same, rook b1, just defending this pawn, but also already getting out of this diagonal. This bishop here on g7, for now there were still some pieces in the way, but this bishop is very dangerous. It's worth it always keeping an eye on this bishop. I have lost many games in my life, especially online blitz. Thank you so much, by the way, to our production team for getting rid of the echo, and thank you to the chat for letting me know. So I was saying one Fiona is enough. That is very true. It's more than enough. I was saying that in my online blitz games, especially, many times a rook was lost because it was left on a1. So I think rook b1, especially for the shorter time controls, rook b1 is always a good idea. Black is playing in the center, grabbing some space by playing e5. White responds with rook e1. And for now, things are in the balance. I don't even know who do I prefer here. Maybe black. I mean, black has two central pawns. White has only one. Of course, that's only a minor detail. But if black can get ready, and right now black is absolutely not ready, but to strike in the center, or maybe this rook, could this rook come all the way to b4, and maybe we could try and double some pieces on the b file. I think maybe black is the one with the slightly, probably black is the one with slightly more active play here. So we'll see. Black, I think it's a big decision now, because maybe black is thinking of some pawn pushes. Do I want to play a5? Do I maybe want to play g5? The problem is with pawns, of course, they don't go backward. So any pawn move is quite a committed move, which is why I think that's part of the reason that black is thinking so long here. Especially a move like g5, it can be very tempting to kick away this bishop. But at the same time, if you play g5, you are weakening some squares around the king. So it's a very double-edged sword here. So black, I was just gonna say maybe black's not gonna go for any of these pawn pushes. But he or she actually, maybe we have two women playing on this board. Actually, let me very quickly see. I don't think I can figure it out so quick. Let me see. Can I figure out? Okay, so TR Kirs is Tatiana Kirsanova. So this is either a couple or brother and sisters. So on top board for the Adam Smith Business School, on top board they have Oleg Kirsanov, who is right now playing against Joël Lautier, and then here is Tatiana Kirsanova. And for Skolkovo, I think Oxana is not playing this round. So for Skolkovo, Berserk 1994, I think is either International Master Ivan Denisov or Anton Kozlov. I do not know which of the two it is. But Alexey is playing on board 3, but there's no. It's all very confusing. It's tough to figure it out on the. It's tough to figure it out on the go. But at least on the white side, it's a woman player. So Tatiana on the white side, and her position, I think, is fine. I would prefer black. The problem is this bishop is now looking at nothing. The position is looking at nothing, the bishop is looking at nothing, and if it goes back to g3, it will still be hitting a wall. So I think this bishop on h4 is one of our problem pieces in this position. Meanwhile, black gets the last piece out, the bishop goes to e6. And there are some possibilities maybe of, if that knight were to ever go away, then black could come into a2 and target this pawn here. But now we see another reason why this position is difficult for white, because black has gotten in the f5 break, and now black is going to either maybe push f4. I don't think black wants to take. I think f4 looks pretty scary. That poor bishop is going to have to drop back to h2, and this is going to be a very, I think, just an unpleasant. I don't think the position is lost or anything, but it's just a very crammed position. We see this poor bishop here, which right now has no future. It's hitting on this wall, and it's even hard. Oops, I think I made that move once again. Let me refresh. My apologies. My apologies. So we are back now. White is thinking. And I was just saying that one thing we can imagine is maybe in the long term, the king goes to h1, the bishop to g1, then f3 is played. But yeah, right now, it's almost like white is playing a piece down. Now there's another problem after the move g3. We talked about pawn pushes, how pawn pushes, very often they create weaknesses, and in this case it's not just a weakness. In this case it just gave up the defense of the h3 pawn, which I think black can just capture now. I don't see anything that is stopping me as black to take that pawn, and that pawn is gone. And now it's a problem. This bishop, it looks a little bit more active on g3 than it was on h2, but still it's looking down at this wall of pawns. And I think it's a very difficult position here to defend. All games in this match are still going. That's the match we will mostly focus our energy on in this round. I think it's a very high, I think it's probably the strongest clash of this round. The bishop has just dropped back to e6. Maybe that knight is looking to come in. Maybe the queen wants to join the game. There's a lot of different plans here for black, and for white the problem is not just that white is a pawn down, but it's also very hard for her to find a plan. What do you do as white? You have one bishop that's looking at your own pawn, another bishop that's looking at the opponent's pawn. So this bishop pair, in general we like the bishop pair, but this bishop pair here is quite sad right now as it is being blocked in by the pawns. And now we see black has decided on the plan. I think black's plan is going to be to take some ground on the king side. Maybe the queen can join via h5. Maybe the knight can jump to f4. There's a lot of different ideas here for black. And once again, the problem is very few ideas for white. In general, when you're down a pawn and you have a difficult position, what you would love to do is to get some active counterplay. But in this position, it's just very, very hard to find an active plan. That's why you also see the big time difference on the clock. But good news for the Adam Smith Business School. I see that they have just won their game on board 2. So Matros, I think that's international master, let me see very quickly, that's international master Alexander Matros has won his game. I'm not sure who was playing on the Skolkovo board too, but right now the Adam Smith Business School taking a 1-0 lead. But of course Skolkovo have Joël Lothier on board 1, also I think on board 4. They are in much better shape here. The rook has come here. Now I'm curious, is that rook going to take that pawn, or is it going to take the e4 pawn? I think both very, very tempting, very, very tempting options. But maybe we can simply take on a4. And then still threatening. Oh, this is a move that surprised me. I did not expect black to go back. I thought even giving up the exchange and getting in the knight and then having this pawn center. But rook b8, of course, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this move. Black is still up a pawn and just safely holding on to the advantage. But I like what white is doing. White is looking to at least do something. So white wants to probably play king g1 next, and at least open this H file. At least open this H file and see if there's anything active that she can do. Maybe even some knight g1 and try and sacrifice a knight. Because I think the position is bad enough that we're already quite desperate. And we're looking, what we need is we need an active plan. The problem is after king g1, which was my first idea, I don't know what is my follow-up. So that's why I came up with this desperado plan. White decided to play rook a1 to defend this pawn, which was attacked. But once again, the problem is at every turn, what is next for white? It's very difficult at every move to come up with a new move, a new plan. I think coming up with moves is possible, but coming up with plans, that's the problem in this position. There are just very few plans. I see Brian has joined the chat. He's saying, great game. I think black has really played a very nice game and not giving white any chances to get any counterplay, and black has just been firmly in control of this game from the start. Black has now just captured on d3, so this knight has been exchanged. And now the question, is it time? Is it time? This bishop has very few squares, so is it time to push h5? Or do we just take on b2? I didn't even see that pawn hanging. I was so focused on the action on the king side. But rook takes b2. That is a second pawn for black. And by the way, Joël Lothier has won his game on board 1. So currently this match between Skolkovo A-Team and Adam Smith Business School is tied 1-1. I think Skolkovo is going to take the 2-1 lead here in this game, and then it will all come down to board 3, where we will go right after this. Are we not just winning yeah, so this happened, knight g4, fork against the king and the bishop, and Tatiana, the player with the white pieces here, has resigned, so that's a 2-1 lead for Skolkovo. And this is the last remaining game in this match. So the player of Skolkovo is Koza 13. Alexey is the player of the Adam Smith Business School. And what is going on here? Some madness. A double rook sacrifice. That's something we don't see every day. So, but it might be very good team tactics. It might be very good. Well, actually, it might not just. Actually, white had given up quite a bit of a material for the. No, what's going on? It's just madness. I'm trying to understand what's going on. It looks like black was in great shape, is what's happening. But now, so white is looking for the perpetual. The question is there a perpetual after queen takes g6? Maybe white is also looking at bishop b3, so a draw is enough for Koza 13 to secure a team victory. And since they are all in the same place, I suspect that he knows it. He or she, maybe. He or she. So Koza, I guess, is, judging by their names, I guess it's Anton Kozlov. So I think he probably knows that a draw is enough. So the question, but I think the black king is not getting away, because after, oh, is he? Oops! Oh no, not again. Every time I make a move, I don't know how to. Let's go back here. So what is actually happening here? Check, king e8, only 1 minute on the clock. This is a nail biter. This is a real nail biter. Check, king e8, and the bishop covers this check. So where will the next check come from? Where will the next check come from? Bishop a4, actually. Maybe bishop a4. It looks like b5, but then en passant, oh, b5 was not played. I think b5 was very strong. But now I think, now it's just a perpetual, because now we have this square. Now we have all the squares along the 6th rank available, and black cannot take because of the... It's very strange. Big pity for black that black did not think longer here in this spot, because this is just an immediate draw. I don't know what is white thinking about. What is white thinking about now? So draw was agreed. Let's quickly go back here. I haven't really done much analysis, but let's very quickly see b5. Apparently b5 was also a draw, but why can't white take here? Because now rook d7. And now if we go here, now the problem is after queen f6, there was queen f7, rook f7, and black would be winning. So after b5, this was a crazy game. After b5, there was still a draw, but no. No, I think b5 was winning. Queen e5 is not a draw, because now the king runs. A big missed opportunity here, potentially, for the Adam Smith Business School, but the Skolkovo team will be very relieved to get the win here. Let's remind everyone, I think the toughest group in this event, the C group. Let's quickly scroll around. This is an extra rook for white. Only very few games remain here for this first day of the FIDE Binance Business School Super Cup. This one is also game over. That king is going to get checkmated. Maybe we can see, will we see the mate? There is a big threat. Where is the big threat? Actually, this is not a threat yet, because the bishop is looking at h6. There is one threat of just taking the knight. I mean, it's just an extra queen for black. Now it's mate, though. Now it is mate. Rook h6, king takes, and rook h4 was mate. That was missed by black, but I think black is still going to get there, and that was my move once again, so we'll move on. Okay, so Gagi Cave or Gagi Cave, we saw his or her match in the first game, but now they are up against an FM Faro Lizo. And what is going on here? Black has an extra rook, but white has these two passed pawns, but it looks like these two passed pawns are not going to advance any further after king c8. Or even king e8. Even king e8, how do you push them? This bishop from e6 is doing such a great job holding the pawns. And black, of course, has a passed pawn of their own. So we can stick here. This is quite interesting to see, can white make anything happen with these pawns? This is a great trick, actually. If black were to take, then we can get a queen. But then what happens after queen? We will see it. We will see what's going to happen. Black is probably just going to get a queen of their own. Just get their own queen, and then black will emerge a full rook and bishop up. And there is probably no perpetual here. There's so many pieces that can help defend the black king. So black very nicely kept their cool there. And black is going to win this game. I think we will move on from here. Let's try and find something that's a bit more even, because here, or maybe we can see it. I think white is just white is going to run out of jacks and probably resign. I think there's already no more checks. There's already no more checks, so we might see a resignation right here. No, knight b4 was played. Queen f1 check. King c5, rook a5. Black is playing very fast now, and that's going to be checkmate on not the next move, but the almost next move. King d8. It's not mate yet because the queen is defending these two diagonal squares, but queen b8, queen c8, and queen takes here is going to be mate in two. So I think that's what we are going to see. Queen b6, also good enough. Also good enough. Are we going to see some fancier checkmate with the bishops? What is going on here? I guess we will see bishop f7. No. But what? Oh my god, I think black forgot which direction the pawn is going in. It's still winning, of course. It's still winning, of course, but white can just capture the rook. That is so crazy. I always struggle. I laugh. I'm not mocking, just to make that very clear. But I always have the same problem, especially when I see tactics or these endgames. When there's so few pawns left and the position is so crazy, it's easy. It's easy. It looks funny, but it's quite easy for that to happen, to just not remember which way are the pawns going. So now black has to do the job one more time, but it is still a mate. A few quicker checkmates were missed here, but now queen takes c7 is the end of the game. So black gets there in the end. What an end game. And here we have another queen end game. How many games remain? Only this and two more. Only this game and two more remain. So let's see, is white going to white is going to be able to convert this. Just run the pawn. And I guess we'll see a resignation here quite shortly. White is just going to give up the bishop, get a new queen. And I suspect white does know. I also suspect white's rating, probably the lead chess might have been a new one, because we see Dara chess actually has a rating of almost 2300, so very likely no nickname, probably underrated here. So, and do we see a resignation here? Not just yet, but we will see a resignation. We will see a resignation very, very shortly. Maybe it's over. I'm going to move on. Maybe, okay, there is the result, I think. Black resigned. So we have this going on and hopefully something, this is, I was going to say it's more exciting. At least there's more pieces on the board, but black is just getting ready to checkmate white here. That king on g3 is a problem, but the bigger problem is that white is down a full queen. Is black just going to take? Rook takes and mate. Mate is not too far away, I think. Mate is not too far away. g5. King h5, where is that mate? Queen takes. If there was not this pawn left and this pawn left, it would be stalemate, but there was still the a pawn, and after a4, rook f4, h4, rook takes, that was checkmate, which leaves us with only this one last game. Our last game is rook against king. The problem is if these players are more beginner, and I think they're repeating moves actually. But black is not repeating. I am confused. Is this really happening? How long have we been playing this endgame? I think we're going to get to the 50 move rule. So this endgame started on move 70. So we're only 15 moves away, but it looks like white just wants to repeat. Rook against king, it's one of the things that is really worth learning, I think, when you're starting out. I think start by learning how to checkmate with a queen, Then once you're confident you know how to checkmate with a queen, learn how to checkmate with 2 rooks, and eventually learn how to checkmate with just 1 rook. It is not so easy, but I mean, if you're just starting out, it's one of the harder checkmates, but it will earn you a lot of points. It will earn you a lot of points because very often you will get to a position where you just have a rook against the enemy king, and it can be quite frustrating to get to this ending, but to not know how to checkmate. So it's one of the checkmates that is definitely worth learning. So that is it for today. We are going to go back to the studio in a couple of minutes where Oxana and her lovely co-hosts are going to end the show. But what a day of chess it was. We saw a lot of games. We saw a lot of fighting chess, a lot of really, really exciting games. Did I just say that? Maybe I did. And tomorrow will be more of the same. Tomorrow only 3 rounds. So today was day 1 of the FIDE Binance Business School Super Cup. Tomorrow is day 2. Tomorrow is the final day of the round robin qualifying event. And that will start the same time as today. I think the broadcast will be live at 4 p.m. Central European Summer Time. So that's 2 p.m. UTC, and the games will start half an hour later, so at 2:30 p.m. Central European Summer Time. And tomorrow only 3 rounds, so tomorrow is going to be a slightly shorter day. Thank you so much in the chat. I see you all. Thank you for keeping me company today. I will be back for more tomorrow. So tomorrow, as I said, 3 more rounds to look at. And then on Sunday will be the knockout phase, which will be even more exciting. So 8 teams will qualify, 2 from each group. Tomorrow we will find out which teams they are. So that is all from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. Huge congratulations and huge kudos to all the players. Also for getting up in the middle of the night to play here. It was a pleasure to be your commentator. Thank you to you in the chat who kept me company. And now for one final time, back to the studio, back to Oxana, Andrei and Ivan, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello again, our audiences and our viewers. We've been waiting for this time to meet again. We had 4 rounds already today, and we're coming to a close of our first competition day. And we still want to talk to Joseph Dorfman, who's the well-known grandmaster of chess. Joseph has been observing our tournament today and also doing some Russian commentary, and we want him to share now his impressions of the games. Joseph, good evening. Good evening. I'm happy to see and hear you. You can't hear me? Have your mic turned on? And he also needs to select. You also need to choose. Yeah, the Russian language. I had that at the very beginning. I need to do it again. Yeah, I had that. If I remember correctly, in... No, it's somewhere in the middle of the screen. You have to find it in the middle of the screen. There is a Zoom panel, and you need to switch on the Russian language. Maybe the... Yes, I used to have that, Russian and English. Now it's not available. Give me one more second, one more minute. Yes, I found it. I found it. Can you hear me now? Yes, we can hear you very well. Joseph, hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening to you. We would like to ask you, what's your impression on our first competition day? We're so happy that you spent this day with us and you managed to observe some of the matches. Well, the tournament is not homogeneous, and there's clear difference between the levels of players, but the actual fact that such a tournament is taking place is already great. You know, in France, we have a tradition that's been established for many decades. 25 years or so ago, I was invited to a tournament like that between the leading French schools, and there was a simultaneous play organized. And I need to say that pretty strong chess players were amongst the teams. And I think making a start is already a great move. And of course, more and more people will join, but the actual fact that you managed to assemble 32 teams together, and there are different times of day everywhere, this is extremely interesting. Joseph, which matches were you observing most of all? I really like the first match. I really like the first game, which Fiona was showing. I thought that you can hear me. I was switching over to the Russian channel and I was commenting. I don't know whether you heard me or not. And there, a person sacrificed some of the material, but then he managed to develop an attack with minimal efforts, and he made, and it led to a beautiful mate. And I could see that the person can really think well, and he coordinated his pieces nicely. Joel won easy. It was an easy game for Joel. Actually, talking about Joel, he was my first student in France 32 years ago when I moved to France. Well, he was 16 back in the time. I remember it was in Cannes, and I remember that very well. And we were playing with him for one club for 5 years. We've been France champions. His coach was at the Olympics. We also were participating in the European Junior Championships, and I know him very well. Joel is our star today. Yes, we have such an interesting broadcast today that Vladimir Kramnik joined us and talked a little bit about Joel. We're getting connections and telebridges throughout the whole day. And I remember they were playing a match against each other. Joel was playing against Vladimir Kramnik. I think it was in Cannes, somewhere in the 90s. They were very young. And I went to the Festival Palace and I was watching the match. And in parallel to that, there was a women's match. I don't remember who played specifically. Do you remember his match with Garry Kasparov in the year 2000? That's a good question. Of course I do remember it, of course. That was... I don't think it was the first match when I didn't coach Kasparov. I coached him when he played against Karpov, 84 to 87. This match, different people were in the team. Here's an explanation to what happened afterwards. No, it's not an explanation. No, don't hint at that. I think that Kramnik, selected a very nice, fine strategy for that time, because computers did play a role back then. Of course, not as big as now. And I think he referred to the variation that was forgotten, the so-called Berlin Wall, and just because of that, the computer back then was not capable of analyzing the position, and Kasparov did not reposition during the match, but Kramnik played beautifully. I remember we played with Kramnik for one club, and Anand, and Joel, and many other champions of the world. Our club was the strongest in Europe for many years, and I know them very well. Kramnik I know also. Very well. Do you know that today we also had teams from Fiji? Fiji, yes, and they played early in the morning. We asked them to join us, and we had a very tired player joining us online after having a couple of matches, and we asked him, how can you keep fit, dear friend? He says, cold shower and a couple of cups of coffee. Yeah, I remember during the last Olympics, I was asked to coach the Virginia Islands people, and the people in that team were very much like the guy joining you. I remember they played against Papua New Guinea. That was fantastic. It's such a pleasure to work with the guys. They do love chess. It's phenomenal, phenomenal. Yeah, so he played the matches. It was early in the morning, and he's so happy. You could see it in his eyes. He was really happy that he could play. And when we asked him about that, he said he loves chess, and this love for chess is eternal. And I think he could have played 3 days in a row, burning his midnight oil without stopping. Actually, Vladimir Kramnik once said, and I think the most important thing, why so many chess players, including Kasparov and Anand, why they're leaving at one point in time? Kramnik he says, if you stop loving the process, you leave. You should never stop loving the process. And at one point in time, it started irritating me. I can solve any problem, but the length of the game, your body becomes completely against that. And you can see it in such people. They get a bigger pleasure from playing, bigger than the professionals. And I think that's the fact of life. Yeah, they're doing it for fun. Using this opportunity, may I ask you a standard question for me today? Because every time I'm getting different answers to it. And I think it's real good and it's real cool. Joseph, what's chess for you? It's an amazing question. You know, I'm one of the chess players who tried various positions and various things. I became a world champion of the in the USSR team until 27, under 27, where Karpov, Petrosyan and others played. I was very young, even not turning 30. I became a trainer, a coach, and I started training 3 world champions, including Kasparov. After that, I moved to France, and I became a coach of the team of France for many years. And then I've got a theory. After doing so much coaching work, I wrote a theory about chess, an algorithm of searching for a move. It's pretty interesting for people who play in here because I didn't just play chess, I also got some education about chess. And this theory of mine, this mechanics, statics, and dynamics, I used to study in the Polytechnic. And I created a whole theory of how to search for a move, the best way of searching for a move. And I also tried doing commentary today, so I tried myself everywhere. I tried to do everything. And when I'm thinking about chess, and when I'm thinking why chess attracts me, even until now, and I'm not losing interest to it, it's because chess is a way to search for harmony. It's the way to search for truth. I have close friends of mine, artists, musicians, and they say the same things I say. They also get the same kind of pleasure, and they get it in the same moments of time. When you find a very thin and a very fine logic, you find harmony in what you do, and it brings you closer to nature. And that feeling is unbeatable. This feeling is something that you can't really communicate well, and this is the highest pleasure you can get. And you can get it being a coach, being an author, being a commentator. If you reach that flow, if you know the depth, if you see the depth, and if you open up eyes to people and see it, if you see harmony and logic and the way pieces get together, that's the biggest thing you can get from chess. It makes you closer to nature. Is that what you said? Yes. It's the harmony that makes you come close to nature. These are the beautiful words, Joseph. Yes, and I think this is the greatest thing you've got in chess. It's the depth. The theory that I wrote explains physical processes that happen in the game. And these physical processes are replicated in nature. When I was doing a couple of seminars in France, it's called PDG, large managers of companies. One guy told me that he used a method I taught in a different industry. He got the essence of it. And I used to have another workshop to run. ADS, it's a European group that produces rockets and radars and robots. They invited me to read a lecture. I read a lecture, and I remember a person sitting in Toulouse in a company asking, why can't we use it in our company? And the answer was, I had a man standing next to me who does artificial intelligence in the company I was reading a lecture to. And he said, he, pointing at me, has all true data. When he analyzes something, he relies on perfect data. We can't get perfect data, even in our company, because our company is multinational, and a French group might not provide true data to the German group. It means that even in between themselves, some of the basic data is not always available for analytics. But in chess, luckily, you get all the relevant data in front of your own eyes. You're both. You're a jester, and you're a king, and you're an executor. You control everything. You keep all the reins in your hands. That's what makes it so interesting. Thank you so very much, Joseph, for coming, and thank you so very much, Joseph, for following our cup, for sharing such amazing ideas and thoughts. I hope that our viewers will find it interesting to read your theory. I actually have it in front of me here, and it's published in Russian. I'm really thankful to Mr. Ulyanov, who published it. It's a pity that he died. He died, and it came unexpected. The book is out in 7 languages. The final version is an English one, and I really like it. But the Russian version, I think, well, since I was writing it in Russian, is the best. And since it didn't undergo translation, I think it's ideal. But the English book I released a year ago is also very good. So you should also consider it. Joseph, what would you have wished to our participants? I wish them to get fun from the game. What else? They're not professionals. They're not fighting for a great cause or a great victory, a sporting victory. They came here to get fun. That's the most important. And I see how they play. You might find it surprising. Fiona was showing some positions when people are playing without the rooks. In the Soviet Union, we never had that. People here play until a mate. Until you're mated, you are not yielding. The mate should be seen. Yeah, you should get your mate, you should get your signature from a great player, and then you should leave home. Well, you see that here in those matches. People are really engaged in the process. They really like it. So get fun. Basically, you're watching how people are playing on the board, and you're seeing that they are getting fun from it. Yes, absolutely. I have an amateur team in the recent Olympics. Everyone I coached. Well, you've never seen it like that. Usually have heavy faces, poker faces, no smiles. These people are living. They're breathing and leaving. It means that they have something else in their life apart from chess. It's like reading a play and crying. This is the analogy I've got. Watch how guys are playing and get pleasure from knowing. By looking at how they play, you know what kind of emotions they feel on the chessboard. Yes. Joseph, have you taken part in any online tournaments? How do you like that experience, the online tournaments? How different it is for you? How different it is from the usual tournament? Do you know what I'm going to say? I've never taken part. Let me think again. I don't think I've ever taken part in tournaments like that. Just for you to know, we are playing online for many years. When I was coaching the team of Germany, and I think it was 8 or 9 years ago, I organized the training based on things I played online, and I had a database of 12,000 matches. 12,000 matches. I played only 2,500, I mean, in a classical way, and I had 18,000 played online, so I really love that. And it's free of charge, you don't have to pay. And of course, it takes a lot of nervous work, but I like it. Even now, I still play at Chess. It means that online is the way of feeding into your database. Yes, I love chess and I play it for pleasure, for fun. You know, after I played a match, and if I think it's an interesting one, the professionals say, I start to draw a line. Because against me, grandmasters also play and have amazing ratings, and I'm trying to see, did he make any new moves? Is he trying to move differently? And then I also train 15 people. My Skype sessions never end, actually. So I use it for my training sessions. Actually, even today, we all thought that with computers coming along, chess will end. Actually, it's vice versa. Chess is surviving the new renaissance because of the computer. It's a paradox. Everybody thought that we are pushing chess to the end. Actually, a computer can defend against everything, but the game is becoming ever so interesting. You start to understand computers better, and you see that what you thought to be right in the 70s still holds true until now. Thank you so very much, Joseph, for joining us. Thank you very much for inviting. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. And see you again. Hopefully see you. Bye-bye. All right. Let's draw a conclusion to our first gaming day. Chess results? Yes, let me find out what's happening there in the chess results. Let's have a look at Group A right now. University Mulungushi is number 1. Which country is that? Do you know? No, I don't. Let me check that. Mulungushi. It's not that simple to find out where they're from. Guys from the team, can you please tell us where they are? I've never seen the flag of that country before. I haven't learned it by heart. Second place. We have the Finance University. Yeah, Russia. Number 3. Sri Ram College of Commerce, India. Place 4, US, Quantic School of Business and Technology. 5th place, Khulna University, Management and Business from Bangladesh. Number 6, finishing 6, is the University of Fiji 1, finishing 7, Goryachev University, India, and then Kingston Business School of London, England. Group B. First place, MGIMO, then MIPT Business School, then Escuela Superior de Economía from Mexico. Now number 4 is Daffodil International University from Bangladesh. Finishing 5, we have Philippines. Finishing 6 and 7, we have India. And closing out our B group is the HSE, High School of Economics, Graduate School of Business. Group C, moving on to them. Finishing first is the University of Toronto, Canada. Finishing second in Group C, guess who? Skolkovo, exactly right. Moscow School of Management, Skolkovo. First place, actually, no, I'm sorry. It's Team 1, place second. I confused it all. Finishing third, our friends from Scotland. Adam Smith Business School. Number 4, the US. Number 5, India. Number 6, it's Zambia. I think it's Zambia. Number 7, Mexico again. And number 8, we have IMD, which is Switzerland. Perfect. And then moving on to Group D. Finishing first, Perm State National Research University. Finishing second, RANEPA. Finishing third, Higher School of Economics. Finishing fourth, our second team from Moscow School of Management. Finishing 5 and finishing 6, 2 Indian universities. And finishing 7, we have Fiji. And finishing 8, we have Chittagong University from Bangladesh. So these are the results of the day. We hope that tomorrow our day is going to be will be no less interesting, and we know it for sure because tomorrow we'll be having a hard fight to get to the elimination rounds. Yeah, we had 32 teams playing today. How many teams will be playing tomorrow? Same amount. Tomorrow, all of the teams will be playing, all of them, 32 teams from 12 countries, and the day after tomorrow, we will only have fewer teams. Exactly. We will have fewer teams. And I hope tomorrow we'll be able to see how the fight continues and how you play. Can you play? You will play. Fiona will comment and everybody will get a lot of fun from it. Concluding today, what impressions do you have of the day? I know, Vanya, that you don't play chess yourself. No, I don't. I don't blame myself. So it's the first chess experience for you, is that correct? Yes, I used to play when I was a kid. I think everything that I said in the very beginning stands true. I feel proud. I have a sense of pride knowing that humanity does this intellectual activity. Talking to Joseph, I felt the beauty in it, because I'm doing a little bit of music, and I felt the beauty, the harmony, and the logic. So what he says is exactly the same I feel when we are playing music together, when we're doing and producing music. And I think same stands true for the theater. I really love beauty, and chess is a beauty. And the things that we came up to that, the thing that we started asking people what is chess, I think it's an interesting observation, because everybody answers something on their own. I thought that we will have symmetrical answers, but all of them are very different. And for each person, it brings something different. Exactly. Quite often, some people say that chess is a sport, some say it's a science, some say it's an art. And yes, chess is a multifaceted game, and that's why our viewers love it so much. And you can also ask what business, and you can also get different answers to that, exactly. And now it's the time to conclude our session, and we would like to also thank our general sponsor of the Cup, without whom this Cup will never take place. It's Binance Crypto Exchange, Tiger.Trade, and CryptoUniverse cloud service. Exactly. Thank you so very much. Lichess, Skolkovo, kudos to you. Thanks for the broadcast, and stay tuned until tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.